Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Logan Bailey.
Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast, football edition, brought to you by our primary sponsor, BSN Sports. I'm your host, Logan Bailey, and joined again today by Keith Brown, AJ Fairchild, and Tony Fairchild. So, guys, thanks again for joining me today on the show.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure.
Another week in the books. You know, we're on to week 4 now. What are your guys' kind of thoughts going into this week?
Conference play starts. It's all for the marbles now. Yep. Other than Defiance. I mean, those guys, WBL sucks really
right. They're always the odd man out. They play a large conference schedule.
Right.
That's why you play the first 3 games to get ready for your conference season, and kicks off Friday.
Yeah, a couple teams starting off 0-3 right now, or 1-2. Those first 3 games really don't matter for most teams.
Right.
Now is when it really starts mattering for everybody.
And that's a big thing too. A lot of these conferences, we've talked all year long. Green Meadows Conference is probably the most competitive conference in terms of teams being equally balanced throughout. WBL as well. That's always competitive conference. NWAL, we know, is always kind of top heavy with Liberty Center leading the way, but I think Delta is really making a case for them being towards the top as well.
Yep.
Archbold's kind of lingering around there. Patrick Henry will probably be towards the top. And there's some teams like Evergreen that are making some noise as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of excitement going into this week, and hopefully we have some good weather come this Friday as well. So let's go ahead. We'll get things rolling here. We're going to look at how we did for last week's picks. Week 4 was a good week for picks from all of us. Finishing in first for last week, there was a 3-way tie between Keith, AJ, and Matthew, all tied with a 19-2 record. Next was myself with an 18-3 record, and last was Tony with a 15-6 record. So
it wasn't so good for all of us.
It
wasn't so good for all of us.
For a majority of us, it was a good week. So Keith, AJ, First, spotlight I think that you guys have had all year. So what were your guys' thoughts on last week's picks, and what kind of led to your decision, or any surprises, or what are your kind of comments on that?
That was a good week last week. We had a couple games go right down to the wire. Defiance, last couple minute win. A big stop at the end over St. Mary's. I picked Van Wert. I mean, still kind of wasn't even a close game, honestly. Yeah. But if I had to make that pick again, I probably still would take the Cougars. So, but yeah, 19-2 officially. We'll talk about one obviously later that could have swung either way, but we're not going to worry about that now.
AJ,
I don't really have a whole lot of input. Just got lucky on this week because there was a couple games that could have gone either way.
And on the year, the race is still tight. Matthew's in first with a 47-12 record. Logan and Keith tied in second with a 46-13 record. Third is AJ with a 44-15 record. And last is Tony with a 42-17 record. So
I'm used to Bryce being here. I'm not always last.
Tony's bringing up the rear now, so someone's got to do it. I guess he's taking care of that. But let's go ahead. We're going to get into some week 3 game recaps, where we kind of pick the top games from last week and we discuss those. So we're going to start with the NWO Sports Game of the Week, and that's Patrick Henry at Columbus Grove. Columbus Grove ended up coming away with a huge matchup win here, 27-13. And this was a matchup between two of the bigger dogs in Division 6 and Division 7. The Columbus Grove defense on this game was just on another level. The game creating 4 first-half Patrick Henry turnovers, 5 total for the game. They had a blocked punt as well that turned into 6 points as they recovered in the end zone. Columbus Grove won the turnover battle by a wide margin by having 0 turnovers themselves. So anytime you can win that turnover battle by that wide a margin, you're pretty much a lock to winning the game. A couple other news and notes that I heard that the Columbus Grove quarterback, Landon Best, he ended up getting hurt, unfortunately, this game. So we wish him a speedy and quick recovery because he's definitely a key contributor on that Grove Bulldog team. But Trent Barraza ended up taking over the reins of the offense and did a very nice job to finish up the second half. Columbus Grove, again, like I had said, blocked the punt late in the third quarter to help seal the game for the Bulldogs. And Patrick Henry, just turnovers throughout the game really hurt them. They had a fumble inside their own 20 along with that blocked punt by Grove's Gavin Baxter, and a recovered in the end zone by Sam Groke for a touchdown. So halftime, Columbus Grove was winning 21-7. Total offense for the game, Columbus Grove had 248 yards with 161 rushing. Patrick Henry had 214 with 135 passing. Some top players of note. Columbus Grove running back Trent Barraza had 26 carries, 146 rushing yards, good for 5.6 a carry. 2 rushing touchdowns, and he was 4 of 7 passing with 25 passing yards. He did have 1 impressive pass for a huge 3rd and 12 conversion where the play was lined up in empty formation with Barraza faking a draw. Then he kind of ran up to throw like he was going to fake run it, so pulled up, and then he threw the ball over top while he was getting tackled to Grant Eversole running up the middle, which that really helped seal the game too. So that was an impressive play from him. Quarterback Landon Best, 7 of 10, 70%, 62 passing yards. He had 7 carries for 12 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. And defensive lineman Kylan Mays had himself an absolute game. 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 1 interception thanks to a pass deflection by Sam Grote, 2 forced fumbles, fumble recovery as well. And really, it was all a solid performance against a good Patrick Henry offensive line. Some top players from Patrick Henry. Wide receiver Lane Jackson had 2 receptions for 31 receiving yards with a receiving touchdown. Quarterback Lincoln Krieger, 11 of 21, 135 passing yards. He had 2 passing touchdowns. He did have 3 interceptions, 16 carries for 46 rushing yards. And wide receiver Trent Johnson, 2 receptions for 30 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. So, guys, thoughts on this big matchup between Columbus Grove and Patrick Henry?
Yeah, I just with Landon Best going down, that's a hurt. That's gonna leave a mark. But we always talk about next man up. And Barraza steps in and plays the quarterback position. But as you describing that play, from Barraza, Keith and I are looking at it like Tim Tebow.
Tim Tebow play.
That's what I kind of thought too when they had that.
Away, so, no, glad to see him win.
Yeah, if you're Patrick Henry, I don't really honestly know that you're going to win too many games with 5 turnovers.
No.
Right there, that's a big issue for the Patriots. Coach I could not have been happy during this contest, and at the end he probably stewed all weekend, is my guess. Protect the ball, boys. On the flip side, big win for Columbus Grove. You see your leader go down, or one of your leaders go down, basically right before the half. And your best player on the offensive side now gets to be your quarterback. Sounds like for a majority of the season. We'll find out, but hopefully Landon can get back. But similar to Patrick Henry last year, Nash Meyer went down, and the troops rallied behind Lincoln Krieger, and hopefully the Columbus Grove Bulldogs can do the same.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time with the environment, walking into Clymer Stadium with the lights the way they were this past week. I know Logan got that video posted, and
absolutely amazing.
That's great.
When we were there, it was awesome. Just the strobing effect. It wasn't even the colored lights, but you add that in, that just adds another element of like, what in the world is happening?
Yeah, it's almost
cool to see.
It would be like not only intimidating, but it's kind of like all the flashing the colors and all that stuff kind of just throw you off your game a little bit.
I just think it's so awesome too that the lights can sync with the music, and I believe they were playing "Welcome to the Jungle" coming out, and oh man, if I was in one of those huddles during that timeout, I would be getting so jacked, and just to see the lights, and that was something we didn't get to see when we went week 1 because I believe they were still trying to figure out everything, and as I was told, they didn't want everything to just kind of fall apart on them week 1 when they're still trying to figure things out. Wanted to keep it somewhat simple and make it still presentable. But yeah, the colored lights, the lights in sync with the music, unbelievable atmosphere. I mean, that was really cool. There was someone that commented on one of the videos and said they need to stop doing it because it's going to cause seizures or something like that.
It just might.
And everyone else is like, then don't plan on going to any major sporting event, movie, anything else like that, which is true. But I just kind of had to laugh about that because it's just an unreal atmosphere. There's not very many stadiums in the area that can do something like that.
Yeah, when we were there, it was mostly light until late fourth quarter, so we didn't really get to see the full effect of the regular lights. But I can imagine as we get deeper into the season, when kickoff's at 7, it's pretty much getting dark out.
That's what I was about to say.
Just leading up to the pregame with the music and everything. Oh my word!
Can you imagine them doing that for a playoff game? Round 2. Say Columbus Grove's hosting a playoff game. That's about to be an amazing environment.
Light up the whole town.
Oh, no kidding.
I just wonder when those things start flashing, does the rest of the town go down? Kind of like on Christmas vacation, like everybody else loses power. No, awesome environment.
Yeah, one of the points I want to go back to with Landon Best going down, and I've said to you guys before, I think this, after what we've seen, this is a championship caliber team. And, I mean, boy, is that a big blow. But similar to Patrick Henry, I think they have enough athletes that they can kind of rally around. Trent Barraza is a phenomenal athlete, one of the best in the area, and I think he can handle things. Really probably going to be tested down the stretch to see how he can throw the ball. We know that Columbus Grove is not a pass-heavy team in the first place, and that's the thing that I think will really put Barraza in a position to succeed. Is we had talked before how they set best up with high completion percentage throws, a lot of play action, things like that. They're not necessarily throwing the deep ball all the time, which I think someone with an athlete like Barraza, I think he can make a lot of those throws.
Yeah, and you never know who's the second man up is. He might be able to step right in after a week of practice. So you saw Barraza in the game, but they might go to somebody else.
That's very well.
So you never know.
Very well. Good point.
Try to keep things as stable as possible. Right. You don't want to necessarily pull your star running back out of the running back spot if you can get somebody into that quarterback spot that can do an adequate job.
Right.
Try to keep the team as stable as possible. Yeah. Unlike what Patrick Henry had to do last year, they kind of had to mix everything up. But
but nonetheless, Columbus Grove avenges a loss last year to Patrick Henry, and they're off to a hot 3-0 start, facing one of the more difficult non-conference schedules in the area as well. So the Bulldogs are rolling. Next game, oh boy, we were all at this one, so let's kick it off. This is Tenora at Archbold, and of course this had to be the second game we talk about. Archbold ended up winning this one 15-14. And guys, well, after nearly 3 million views of the kick on social media, 3 million plus, that was just on Facebook.
Yep.
Most people already know how this one ends, but let's talk about the rest of the game first. This was a great football game overall to watch. It was Military Appreciation Night. Archbold did a very nice job with that. They had a Hummer there. They had probably a couple guys from the National Guard that were there as well. They did a really nice job at honoring a lot of different people from both Archbold and Tenora, and that was really neat to see. Guys like Jacob Bishop and I'm trying to think Bainfeld.
Liam Bainfeld.
Yep. They got to carry flags to honor their father. Actually, they were the flags that they carried overseas and in battle, and that was really cool to see them carry that out on the field. But a nice job by Archbold and their entire administration and staff over there. But looking at this game, halftime Tenora was up 14-3, held a nice lead. Looking at total offense, Archbold had 282 yards with 163 rushing. Tenora had 224 with 165 passing. Turnover battle. I thought this was kind of interesting. Archbold had 1 interception all game. Tenora had 0, so very low turnovers. For the most part, it was a fairly clean game. Both teams did struggle with some penalties along the way. They were pretty even when it came to that. But let's get into some top players to note from Archbold. Wide receiver Aranger Krieger. Man, this kid was a solid wide receiver. I really liked him a lot. 5 receptions, 67 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. He was the king of the hitches and comebacks all night long. And then he almost burnt Tenora on one time. They did a little fake kind of hitch and go. And then he burned him over top on that touchdown reception that he had. Running back Ryder Ryan, 20 carries, 107 rushing yards, good for 5.4 yards a carry. Quarterback Kurt Kruger, 11-20, 55%, 119 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown. He did have 1 interception, and he had 1 rushing touchdown. Looking at Tenora, some top players. Quarterback Dominic Graziani was 13 of 20, 65%. He had 165 passing yards for 1 passing touchdown. Wide receiver Josh Lieb had 3 receptions, 52 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. Wide receiver, defensive back, kicker Jacob Bishop had a nice game overall. He had 3 receptions for 20 receiving yards, and he's the man of the hour. During the 2-minute offense to end the game, this is a point I wanted to make out. He didn't end up getting a reception, though he was wide open, but it didn't bother him as he turned upfield, and he got a huge block for Dylan Shively, who caught the ball to move the Rams closer to field goal position. So that really stood out to me, and that's what I like. I like hustle plays. I like guys that, if they're not getting the ball in their hands, they're not the star of whatever the play, the team, whatever, that they're gonna help everyone else out, and he did just that. And then he had the 48-yard field goal kick that was ruled no good. And he also had some nice plays at defensive back, a couple great open field tackles too. So, well, do we want to start with the kick first? Might as well. Let's get that out. So who wants to start with this?
What a great – honestly, Logan summed it up from everything from Archbold from the start of the game during the pregame was great, and I guess we'll skip to the final kick. Honestly, when we were doing the game, we talked about it leading up to the first time out that we thought that Coach Dominic actually did Jacob a favor by calling back-to-back timeouts to give him probably an extra 2 minutes to catch his breath and, to get the thing cycled through his mind.
Yeah. So that was the thing, because he was running routes during that 2-minute offense Tenora was running, so he was running all over the field, and then he's got to go ahead and turn around and kick a 48-yarder.
But a lot of pressure. From, like I said, he was one of the 2 selected to carry the flag on the field. Cool, calm, collected, stepped up, probably hit it just a little bit more of a line drive than he wanted. And, of course, the entire game, the wind is blowing at Tenora's from left to right. So when Bishop kicks, there's no breeze whatsoever. There's probably about a 15 to 18 mile an hour wind. Most of the first half into the second, it slowed down. Like we said, of course, once Jacob kicks, there's literally no breeze whatsoever. But initially, I think I thought it was good. I called it was good. Then it went back like a couple seconds later, reviewed it in my mind. I'm like, maybe it was short. Then we all went to break, came back, looked at the replay. Great job by AJ slowing it down on the instant replay, and we're like, wait a minute, that thing went over the crossbar. What the heck? And we pretty much covered it for 20 minutes during the post game. We went downstairs, and some of the athletic people from Archbold were still there. They had no idea. So we can show them the video, and they're like, whoa, what the heck? But, this is what it is. They can't reverse the decision. I thought it was a fantastic moment for Jacob and the team that was lost, especially for Jacob and Liam that got to carry their father's flags out that they carried, 40 years ago or whatever. And it was like I wrote in my post-game article, it was like a kind of a Disney movie ending.
I was going to say, you had mentioned a Disney ending, and that hit it perfectly.
It just didn't happen, but feel bad for Jacob and the team. But looking back, Rams defense played great through the first three quarters. I think through the first three quarters, they only allowed like 120 offensive yards for Archbold. Then Archbold, I don't know what they did differently in the last 13, 14 minutes. Last couple minutes of the third quarter, but the last quarter, fourth quarter. But they kept the Rams defense off balance, it seems like, the entire fourth quarter. Took the lead. But give the Rams credit. Graziani, again, for the second straight week, gathered the team, had a couple of huge passes down the stretch there, and they got within field goal range. And, we all saw it. The kick was good. They just don't get the W. But overall, I think the Rams improved week to week to week heading into the GMC, and we'll see. So,
yeah, we've mentioned before the tale of two halves kind of thing. The first half by Tenora was stellar. It was a really good first half for them coming out against a team like Archbold. But whatever happened towards the end of that third quarter, it was like the momentum just tanked for Tenora. And I don't know if it was a sack or two that happened in the middle there, but seems like from then on it just kind of tanked and couldn't get anything chained together up until that last 2-minute drive where they hit a couple of long passes and it just happened to set them up. And, well, at high school level, it's not even really field goal range for most people.
No, not at all.
Right. That's the wild thing is, we were kind of talking about it in the booth that that's a lot of pressure for a high school kid to go out there and have to make the game-winning field goal and add on the fact that it's 48 yards, not just, a 20-yard field goal that are a chip shot for most athletes. Right. And I think that almost takes pressure off of him because nobody's going to expect him to make a 48-yard field goal kick. Nobody expects that from a high school kid. No offense to Jake or anybody, but that's a phenomenal kick to make.
Well, I almost think that the ref standing underneath the field goal post, I don't think they thought he had any chance as well.
Right.
If you just kind of look at the reactions from it.
Yeah, and then to end up kicking a line drive like that, it's kind of caught everybody off guard. We were all up in the booth like, oh my gosh, he just did it. Like, it kind of took a second to realize what was even happening by the time the refs kind of made the call. But, it's fantastic first half. Second half, definitely need to go back and look to see what changed and why the wheels fell off the wagon.
And there was even a series, too. I think they had shot themselves in the foot. They got a penalty on first down, and then they proceeded to have 3 consecutive sacks by Archbold in a row, which that really killed that one drive that they had in the fourth quarter. So
at the end of the third, really, to me, there was 2 plays that really turned it around for Archbold. And one was Tenora was driving down, had the ball inside the 30. I don't remember exactly where they had the ball. Dom kind of scrambled to the Archbold sideline. Some kid kind of went down at his feet. Dom kind of hopped up in the air over top of him and then continued to hold the ball and got sacked and took about a 15-yard loss. They're in field goal range right there. They were already in field goal range for Jacob, but taking that sack backed them out of field goal range. And, I thought that was week one, Dom did a nice job of getting rid of that ball. He wouldn't have held it. And I don't know what Dom was thinking in that situation. Just throw that ball out of bounds, get rid of it, and live to play another down. But, and then Archbold got the ball, and I think it was third and long, and they hit that long pass over the middle, and he was covered. I mean, the defense was there. They did a nice job. He just out-jumped them and caught the ball. And I think that really sparked Archbold. And Archbold, I think at that point, from that point forward, thought, hey, we can do this, and then just took over the game.
Yeah.
And, the kick is what it is, and, it makes me mad that when you look at the officials, when you slow that view down, and you look at the official on the right-hand side of that video, you see him come out. When he steps forward, you see him give the nod to the other guy like, hey, it was over.
His body
The other
language-
guy was already saying no.
He was pointing to the ground.
He had no clue.
Yeah,
he had no clue. And he's already telling, but he was the senior official and talked the other guy into the no.
And you could just tell by the body language. Yeah, the official on the right that was closer to where the kick was, his mannerisms were showing that he was going to probably call it good. And then the guy on the left, the older guy, he kind of waved him off.
I don't understand that. I mean, and I mentioned this in the game, and it takes 10 seconds to say whether or not the ball went over the goalpost. I mean, that's a no-brainer. It's not like you saw that from 30 yards away like the Winford play that happened last year.
Yeah.
You're literally standing there. Your only job is to look up and look at the goalpost and go, it went over or it didn't. It's not if he bobbled it. It literally either went over the crossbar or went under the crossbar.
Honestly, I think that my personal opinion only, I've never reffed a single game outside of backyard football back in the day with our good buddy Kevin Weber. But I think the official to the left could not actually see the ball go over the crossbar because the
post.
Yeah, the post
actual support
was in his way. So if he's looking up, he can't actually see the ball go over the crossbar because that's in his way. So I don't know why he would even have a decision on it anyways.
Yeah. I'm a little disappointed that the OHSAA say they can't go back and reverse that. And I understand you kind of get in a sticky situation if you go back and reverse call. But in that situation, the clock's dead.
It's a final play of the game.
It's either a win or a loss. It either made it or didn't. And it doesn't determine. It wasn't like it happened earlier in the game.
No.
And then, you can determine, there was 2 seconds on the clock. The clock was 0. So either it went over or it didn't.
Yep.
And I mean, I think everybody out there, 2.97 million people at least, agree that ball was over. There might be a few people out there that look at it and go, oh, no, it didn't cross.
They're looking through a cracked phone.
But everybody else is pretty sure that ball went over. But, to go back and change it now doesn't make any difference because you took that away from Jacob Friday night. I mean, he probably would have been carried off the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He would have been. It would have been the highlight of the night. He'd have been at the after party, and everybody would have been talking it up and celebrating. And instead, everybody was at the after parties complaining because of what happened. And it's unfortunate, but, like I mentioned in the broadcast, Sonora probably shouldn't have been in that situation anyways. I think, personally, I thought we changed some defensive schemes there towards the end. We stopped coming after Archbold as hard, and then Archbold just was doing a nice job of getting next level and sealing off our linebackers, and then they just marched down the field and scored twice. So that is what it is at this point.
Yeah, there's just a couple other comments I wanted to make. You had brought up with the video a couple things. I guess I had heard if Coach Becker would have presented an official with the replay from our broadcast, an automatic 2-game suspension right off the bat.
Wow.
So I didn't know that. The other thing is, and I'm a strong advocate for it, it's a 21st century. There's a lot of teams in the area, Tenor Rams Live, LC Tiger Sports Live, My Sports Live. There's a lot of video broadcast out there. If a facility has access to a live broadcast and it's easily accessible on their phone, they can pull it up, get it at less than a minute. Do you say that teams have access to replay, especially something at the end of the game?
Yeah.
Well, one thing I was thinking about, too, I even commented on a few posts about it. We have, for Tenor Rams Live, we have the ability to actually cast our video straight to the sideline. We have a wireless broadcast thing that can send it to a monitor on the sideline. If we had a monitor set up, all we'd have to do is replay it, and the ref could make the decision on a monitor, so he's not looking at a phone, nothing. He could actually make a clear and concise decision on whether it went over or didn't, or things like that.
Either broadcast or a lot of teams have huddle sidelines.
Right.
You could pull that on their tablet on the sideline and show them. But in a pivotal moment like this, you just hate to see it be taken away by the officials like that. So the other thing is you had brought up Tenora had multiple chances. They had the 14-3 halftime lead. But if you guys remember, with 22 seconds left, Tenora had a chance to win it. It was 2nd and 22nd on Archbold's 42-yard line. That pass Dom threw up to Dylan Shively. If Shively would have kept on running, because he kind of turned up, stopped, I think that would have been a touchdown pass there.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was a deep shot, and that would have been game over right there. So big halftime lead. They had a shot in the end zone. The kick, I guess it just wasn't meant to be for Tenora on that night. There's a lot of opportunities. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but that kick is going to be something talked about for years and years to come. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. And that moment, I had chills. My hair was standing up on me. I was so pumped and jacked, and that was probably one of the coolest moments. And if they would have won the end of that game on a walk-off field goal, oh, man, I may have just jumped out of the booth and ran onto the field. So actually, no, I would have. Because I was going to interview Coach Becker, and I would have been interviewing Jacob Bishop, too. So, I literally would have been running down the bleachers, probably would have fell, jumping over the fence. But, I would have been literally running down there. So, but anyways, that kick's going to live on forever. Yeah. Let's get things rolling. We got some other games to talk about. We're looking at St. Mary's at Defiance, and Defiance won this one 14-10, a huge conference win for Defiance. And this was honestly, in my terms, it's a season-changing win for Defiance after starting out 0-2. Coach Cooper, he had some post-game comments of him saying about they were feeling backed up against the wall. And my big thing is when you back a dog in the corner, that dog's going to go bite back, and that's just what Defiance did. Defiance was down. They were down 8-10 late in the fourth quarter with 3:24 to go. They were 4th and 3 from St. Mary's 10-yard line and decided to go for it rather than kick a field goal to put them ahead. Coach Cooper ended up going with a reverse pass and hook up from running back Anthony Wilder to Noah Gomez, who made an unbelievable, this was actually unbelievable. I don't know how he kind of grabbed it in one-handed grab to score a touchdown and give Defiance the lead late in the game. Halftime, Defiance was up 8-7. Total offense, Defiance had 343 yards with 210 rushing. St. Mary's had 295 yards with 286 rushing. Turnover battle, Defiance had 1 interception, and St. Mary's had 1 interception. Some top players from Defiance. Running back Anthony Wilder had himself a game. 12 carries, 186 rushing yards, good for 15.5 yards a carry. He had 4 receptions for 48 receiving yards, and he was 1 of 1 passing for 10 yards and a passing touchdown that put him ahead. Noah Gomez, 3 receptions, 19 receiving yards. He had 1 receiving touchdown, 10 carries, 31 rushing yards with 1 rushing touchdown. Quarterback Brez Zippel was 12 of 23, 52%. He had 123 passing yards, but he did have 1 interception. And just some stats from St. Mary's, they only attempted 6 passing attempts the entire game. So, guys, thoughts on the St. Mary's at Defiance game?
They only had 9 yards passing. So
that's about normal for them, though. That's
a big win for Defiance. That's definitely, like you said, backed up against the wall. You're 0-2. You got to get something going, as you're moving down the stretch here, and to get something moving into your season, and a big win for them.
Yeah, a heck of a play by Coach Cooper to call that basically double lateral pass. A crucial part of the game and crucial part of the Defiance season. You started 0-3, 0-2 in the conference. You're teetering on salvaging the rest of your season the best you can. But, heck of a call, and big win for Coach Cooper and the Dogs.
I tell you what, too, I think Coach Cooper, you look at coaches in the area, one guy who's got a lot of tricks up his sleeves, Coach Cooper's got quite a few, and they tend to work probably 75% of the time.
Yeah. I'll talk about between breaks, but I got questions to ask. But, yeah, big win for Defiance.
AJ?
No, I've got nothing that you guys have said at all. Just a good win for Defiance to get things back on track here.
Yeah, definitely a solid win. Defiance needed this one, puts them at 1-2 on the year, and they're getting into the solid middle of their conference schedule here. Looking at the next game, Rossford at Evergreen. Evergreen won this one big, 36-6. Evergreen led 24-6 at halftime. Looking at total yards, Evergreen had 315 with 215 passing. Rossford had 241 yards with 190 rushing. Turnovers, Evergreen had 1 fumble, and Rossford had 2 interceptions. Looking at third down conversions, Evergreen was 7 of 15, good for 47%. A nice job from them on the money downs. Rossford was 0 of 11. That tells me that Evergreen was pretty excellent, had some tight defense there against Rossford on third downs. Some top players from Evergreen, quarterback Bryce Bolger, 11 of 20, it's 55%, 229 passing yards. He had 3 passing touchdowns, 12 carries for 57 rushing yards. He had 1 rushing touchdown for 4 total touchdowns for the game. Solid performance out of Bryce. Wide receiver defensive back Colton Robertson, one of the more athletic guys in the area. 5 receptions, 102 receiving yards. He had 1 receiving touchdown. He had an interception on defense. And wide receiver defensive back Will Roots, 2 receptions, 87 receiving yards. He had 1 receiving touchdown. 6.5 tackles, 1 interception on defense. So, guys, thoughts on the Rossford at Evergreen game?
That's think it was a good bounce back win for Evergreen after they traveled up to Ottawa Hills the week before and pretty much, got that loss handed to them pretty handily. But solid win for Coach Bach and Evergreen.
Coach Bach's doing some good
yes.
things. Evergreen's 2-1 sitting now and going into week 4.
One of those looking at the NWAL could be one of those surprise, top half, top third conference finishes for them.
I mean, for them, at this point, 5 wins would be great, right?
Yeah.
So get them to 50% and then 500 and go forward from there. But a good win.
Yeah, I think Coach Bach's doing some good things. I think the kids are really buying in, and that's something we talked about with Evergreen over the last couple of years. Just the instability with all the head coaching changes and kids adapting, and obviously each coach is going to bring in their own philosophy and playbooks. And I just give credit to a lot of the kids for really buying into Coach Bach, and he's taking it and running with it and doing a nice job this year. Let's move into the next game, and this was a big one. And we were really kind of curious on how this game was going to pan out with Delta having a hot start, but Delta ended up winning this game. It was Lake at Delta, 31-14. Halftime score, Delta was up 17-7 on Lake. Total yards, Delta had 386 with 385 rushing. No surprise there. Lake had 304 yards with 237 passing. Turnovers, Delta had 0. Lake had 2 with 1 fumble, 1 interception. Looking at penalties, Delta had 10 for 105, Lake 12 for 123. So a lot of penalties this game. Some top players from Delta. Again, running back and linebacker Landon Littermoot is just carrying that rock, and 29 carries, 306 rushing yards, 10.6 yards a carry. That's just unbelievable for high school football. He's just carrying that rock, and he's doing it well. If you can carry it at 10.6 yards a carry every time you get the ball, geez, that's obviously a first down every single time you're touching it. 3 rushing touchdowns. He also led the team in tackles on defense with 10, so solid performance out of him. Running back Carl Warner, sorry about that. 8 carries, 40 rushing yards. Running back Vincent Martinez, 5 carries, 40 rushing yards with 1 rushing touchdown. So, guys, what are your thoughts on the Lake at Delta game?
All I know is 22 penalties. That game had to take forever. Well, they ran the ball, so
that clock was ticking.
The clock's ticking by running the ball. But I tell you what, those 2 passing teams with 22 penalties, the game would have been over about midnight. But Delta just running the ball. Lindermoot, crazy.
And Lake's a solid team.
Yeah.
They were coming in this game 2-0. Solid win over a good Lipsick team and Northwood, which is so-so. But you can't doubt them coming in undefeated into this game. So,
yeah, we had Coach Vickers here last week. Like you said, we could have sat here and talked to that guy for 2 or 3 hours. That's one of our probably, if not the best interview we've ever had for a coach like on site here. But Landon Lindermoot, good Lord. This kid's approaching 1,000 yards already going into week 4 against Bryan. I mean, it's just unheard of.
I did some calculations with some help. He's probably approaching nearly 1,800 to 2,000 yards this season. Granted, they have to face some tough NWAL teams, Patrick Henry, Liberty Center, things like that. But if he keeps up this pace, he's on pace to have a record-type year.
Yeah, I'm sure Coach Vickers is going to keep the boys on track, just play 1 week at a time, focus on this Friday, don't look ahead. But as I said last week, even the week before, especially after this win, you look at Delta's schedule, they could be 7-0.
Absolutely.
So,
and I'm curious to see down the stretch. We know Coach Vickers. We know he's got in the playbook he can pass the ball.
Yeah.
Playing at Genoa, they spread things out a little bit more, but when you start facing teams like Liberty Center, Patrick Henry, some teams that are really going to battle test you here down the stretch in conference play, I'll be curious to see if Delta throws the ball just a little bit more as well.
But that'll be good for them down the stretch because that'll kind of prepare them if they're they keep things rolling for the playoffs.
For playoffs.
Yeah, they're going to have to come out those last couple of weeks. Those are going to prep them for the playoff season. So it's going to be kind of this like uphill climb as they get closer and closer to playoffs. So as they roll into week 1 and 2 of playoffs, they're going to already be playing at that level.
And that's the thing. You can be a dominant team and run the ball all you want, but come playoff time, you've got to throw the ball at least 8 to 10 times. Yep. If you're going to want to play against some of these competitive best of the best teams, you got to throw the ball to keep them on their toes and set up that run game too.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead. Let's move on to the next game. We're looking at Delphus Jefferson at Paulding, and this game was probably the first game of the year that really tested Paulding out a little bit. Paulding ended up winning 27-2. This is the best start in 36 years through 3 games for Paulding. So a nice job and start for the Panthers. Halftime score, Paulding was up 20-2. Total yards, Paulding had 325 yards with 182 passing. Delphus Jefferson had 77 yards total for the game with 71 passing. Turnovers, Paulding had 1 interception. Delphus Jefferson had 3 interceptions. Looking at some top players from Paulding, wide receiver, defensive back Blake Roanhouse had 5 receptions, 116 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. On defense, he was a key factor, 5 tackles, 2 interceptions on defense. So what a game out of Blake. Quarterback Colton Hunt was 10 of 22, 182 passing yards. He had 2 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, 31 rushing yards with 1 rushing touchdown. Wide receiver, defensive back Jalen Mans had 1 reception, 32 receiving yards with 1 rushing touchdown, 6 tackles, 3 tackles for loss with 2 sacks. And my man, linebacker Jack Woods, led the team with 8 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. So a nice job out of the Panthers. Guys, what are your thoughts on the Delphus Jefferson at Paulding game?
Yeah, Delphus Jefferson's not the Delphus Jefferson of back in the day.
No, they aren't.
Unfortunately for this game, but still an opponent probably a little bit better than the first 2 that Paulding faced. But when you look at just their defense, some of the stats that you have down there, Logan, is they get up 137 yards total on the season.
That was pretty
I
impressive.
mean, that's I don't care who you're playing. That's impressive.
And week 1, they played Swan. Week 2, they played North Central. So
Right.
2 teams that they don't have wins, but still,
Yep.
I mean, that's the way they should be performing
Right.
against these teams.
Yep. Heading into the GMC schedule, 0.67 points per game. But it's nice to see Coach Minzy, 3-0, qualified for the playoffs last year. And you look at the stats and you see the same kids almost every week performing at a high level. So that's impressive.
That's the thing. You look at it, you go back maybe
Very consistent.
5 to 8 years. The games that Paulding probably played week 1 and week 2 would have been probably competitive games, if I'm being honest. But now Paulding's just blowing a lot of these teams out of the water, and they're really handling their business well.
Yeah, for me, it just I don't want to put Paulding down for their poor strength of schedule because, like you said, they're taking care of business. And this week they go to Wayne Trace, which is a county rival. I really don't see Wayne Trace getting in their way.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, so. As we move forward here, maybe we'll see what Paulding's made of. We've talked 100 times, the GMC's kind of all over the place, and we've been talking about Fairview. And here's Paulding just kind of hanging in the shadows like, okay, you guys can talk about Fairview all you want, but we're just going to do our business.
Let me ask you this. So if you're rebuilding a program, you're looking at teams like Paulding, Fairview, teams like that. Would you rather play an easier kind of cupcake non-conference schedule, or would you rather be battle tested to start? I mean, I think you almost need a schedule like this if you're in that rebuilding phase, you're trying to move on to that and take that big leap into the next step. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Probably a double-edged sword, really, because you're trying to build confidence for the boys, but once you actually get into league play and you start playing decent teams, and if you happen to stumble and lose, what does that do for your confidence? Is like everything you built the first 3 weeks just shattered all of a sudden, or I mean, I mean, we don't have to worry about it right now, but it's just
Yeah, just something to think about.
Right, Coach Fairchild would know.
AJ, you start to say something? Oh, no, I don't shy away from anybody. I'll play any team. I mean, we actually got an email the other day from Anthony Wayne. They want to play. They're looking for games for softball. I'm thinking, Anthony Wayne? You're talking about rebuilding. We're going to have to rebuild a little bit. Do you want to play a team like that? I don't know, because you go out and you get slapped around, and it doesn't really do much for you, confidence-wise. But if you play that cupcake kind of schedule and then you get into the tournaments and then you just get slapped at that point. And I don't know which one hurts worse, getting slapped early in the season or, getting slapped later in the season. I know this past year, softball-wise, we got slapped pretty hard by Springfield. And, so that was early in the season. And it kind of tells you where you really stand, if you want to compete with that caliber team. I look at Paulding's schedule. They've got Wayne Trace this week, then Ayersville, and then that matchup against Fairview. So they got a couple more games here where I think they're probably going to take care of business, and then they're going to show down with Fairview. So we'll see. It might be up to that game before they really get tested.
All right, let's move on to the next game. Wayne Trace at Crestview. Big rivalry game between these two. Crestview ended up winning 37-16. This is actually Crestview's 10th straight victory over Wayne Trace in this rivalry game. Halftime score, Crestview was up 17-8. Total yards, Crestview had 391 yards of total offense with 225 passing yards. Wayne Trace had 200 yards with 115 rushing. Turnovers, Crestview had one interception. Wayne Trace had one interception as well. Some top players from Wayne Trace: wide receiver Brady Miller had 4 receptions for 54 receiving yards with 1 receiving touchdown. And quarterback Jack Schuenauer, 6 of 10 for 60%, 79 passing yards. He had 2 passing touchdowns and 1 interception. So, guys, thoughts on the Wayne Trace and Crestview game?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I didn't realize this was their 10th straight victory. Yeah. Maybe I would have picked different, but with Wayne Trace, you just never know. And I know there's all kinds of talk over there, when it comes to the quarterback thing, and you just never know. From game to game, I don't know. It's a tough decision to make.
I think Wayne Trace is just trying to find out who they are this year, really, more than anything.
Yeah, I think they're kind of fitting right in with the rest of the GMC.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right, AJ. I mean, that's perfectly said. But yeah, conference season starts Friday night, and really one of the bigger rivalries in here. You don't really hear about it, but there between those communities, Wayne Trace and Paulding is just like our Tenora-Ayersville, Tenora-Fairview. Well, I mean, that's their rivalry game. So.
Yeah, I look at this game, and I think it's just a tough break for the GMC. Not singling out Wayne Trace, but I did some research, and GMC and non-conference play went 10-14. So down probably a little bit from years past, but again, I think all the teams are going to be competitive. They're going to beat up on each other this year, but I think that was something that really stood out, was that they went 10-14 for non-conference play.
Which, wow, honestly, isn't it as bad as I had thought? I mean, it seems like a lot of the bigger games. They definitely did not come out on top. The GMC didn't come out on top on like NWAL matchups against some of the top tier NWAL. Almost all of them were losses.
Yeah, you look at your blue blood teams like AJ. You got Tenora and Ayersville. You would have told those two programs coming into the season you're going to be 0-6 combined heading into the GMC.
Right.
They would have called you crazy.
Like,
get out of here with that.
It's been a weird year seeing some of the matchups we've seen and where teams are sitting right now. Like, I never would have imagined some of these teams being, where they are, whether it's the top or where it's the bottom. A team like Paulding, they've been struggling the last couple of years, but now they're sitting maybe the top, couple in the GMC now. So it's like the tables have kind of
it's almost like they're flipped, right?
But,
yeah, for me, Delta has just been that team. I don't think any of us really thought much of Delta, but I do have to agree with that hot take from a couple weeks ago. Mike Vickers is a wizard. I'm telling you that right now.
I'll have to buy him a hat.
Yeah. Get him an NWO Sports Wizard hat.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, AJ, it's been kind of weird. I mean, look at Sonora. They're literally a couple plays away from being 2-1.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, so they had an opportunity to beat Otsego. An opportunity to beat Archbold.
You could say the same for Wayne Trace. There's a couple games that were very competitive, and can't remember who they played last week.
They played Spencerville. Lost 27-28.
Yeah, they lost by 1 point last week. So, just a tough break for the GMC, but things are going to get interesting here down the stretch. Looking at the last game for our game recaps, we're looking at 8-man, and this is another rivalry game. Stryker at Holgate, and Holgate just ran with this one, 52-12. Halftime, Holgate was up 28-12. Looking at Holgate, they'd outscore Stryker 24-0 in the second half. Total yards, Holgate had 499 yards with 416 rushing. Stryker had 116 with 106 rushing. Turnovers, Holgate had 1 fumble. Stryker had 2 with 1 fumble and 1 interception. Some top players from Holgate: running back, linebacker Aiden Corser, 11 carries, 195 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He had 1 reception for 38 receiving yards with 1 receiving touchdown. He also led the defense with 6 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. Quarterback Zach Becker, 6 of 10, 83 passing yards. He had 3 passing touchdowns, 6 carries for 47 rushing yards. And wide receiver Isaac Mendoza, 4 receptions, 38 receiving yards with 2 receiving touchdowns. And then looking at Stryker, quarterback Jacob Myers, a little bit of a rough outing, but he's their main player on offense. 2 of 12, 10 yards passing. He had 1 passing touchdown. He did have 1 interception. He had 15 carries with 105 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. So, guys, thoughts on the Stryker at Holgate rivalry game?
Kind of surprising score for me. I mean, after Stryker, I think they had a big win the previous week. And then Holgate coming out with all the graduations they had last year. Basically, it seems like a new offensive and defensive team, but quality win. I mean, big rivalry game for Coach Holton over there, and Coach Wagner. And
I don't think Stryker's a bad team, though. I mean, I think Holgate came out and played really well. We saw a week before when Stryker played Trying to see who they played. North Adams Jerome.
Yeah.
And looking at North Adams Jerome, their record last year was 1-8, but still, they came out with a big win against them and just couldn't come out against Holgate and get the job done. So I think Holgate's going to have a phenomenal year, probably putting themselves in a position to play for another championship.
Yep. Coach Wagner's nice program over there for 8-man. I mean, really. So, because very consistent.
It seems like Holgate's kind of got that 8-man thing figured out, and they're really settling into that spot where they struggled fielding an 11-man team, and for several years there they weren't even sure if they were going to have one, and then they ended up just dropping out of the GMC, and now they finally figured out hey, we can get a solid 8-man program, give these kids a chance to actually play football, whether it's real football or not. You're still suiting up every Friday night, going out there and hitting people and having a great time. And that's what it's really about, is the kids having, a good time on Friday night.
Yeah, having the opportunity to play football, and it's, I've always wondered about 8-man, let's talk about next level. Like, do they get recruited? I mean, do they get looked at like the same as an 11-man, like,
well, we saw last year. Me and Logan did when we went over to the 8-man championship. That Carter Kester. That kid could play for Liberty Center, Napoleon Defiance. I don't care who you put him on. He's going to be one of the better athletes on any of those teams around this area.
And he's back again for Toledo Christian. Yep. So, and Toledo Christian, man, we thought Holgate was good, and they were a solid program last year. But Toledo Christian is on another level for 8-man. And
wow,
it's exciting. We'll have to go watch that game again this year. Hopefully, it's another good matchup.
They're like the Liberty Center of 8-man.
Yeah.
TC is.
I mean, look at the last 2 games. Holgate scored 100 points in 2 games. I mean, so pretty impressive.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with our Coach's Corner segment. We have a great guest in Fairview head coach Doug Rakes. BSN Sports is your go-to business for purchasing uniforms, equipment, spiritwear, and anything else your athletic program needs, giving you more time to impact lives on the field. With over 1,200 sales professionals who live, work, and serve in your community, you're always just a short drive or phone call away. Be sure to give your local sales rep and Jim Garris a call for any of your athletic supply needs. Optimal Performance Fitness is your go-to gym in Northwest Ohio, providing group fitness classes, personal training, and sports performance sessions for area athletes. Located in Napoleon, Ohio. Give them a call today at 419-438-7265.
Baden Stevens Body Shop is your #1 voted auto body shop in Northwest Ohio. We are your experts on all makes and models and are the only Chrysler, Ford, and GM certified collision repair center in the area. Located in Jewel, Ohio. Give us a call today at 419-497-3111 to schedule your free estimate. Come check out the Baden Stevens Body Shop difference.
Welcome back to the NWO Sports Podcast. We are on to the Coach's Corner segment, and today we have special guest and Fairview Apaches head coach and Doug Rakes. So than've for coming on the show, Coach.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll get things rolling. You guys are coming out 2-1. You're on to conference play. You've already matched last season's wins total, so I'd imagine you have to be pretty excited at this point in the season.
Yeah, I think the way that we finished last season, like you said, 2 wins last year, obviously not what we wanted, but we were playing well, getting better throughout the season, and towards the end of the year, really playing what I thought was good football, just not quite getting over the hump in some of those games. And this year to come out 2-1 and kind of pick up in a similar spot to where we left off is pretty pleasing from a head coaching standpoint.
All right, we'll kind of get into a couple different points here. So, bring it up. You guys are loaded at the skill positions. A lot of people know that, with plenty of depth. Players like quarterback William Zedike, probably one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best in the GMC. Wide receivers Logan Ollinger, Gavin Mead. They lead the way among arguably the best wide receiver group in the GMC. So just talk about those guys and initial thoughts on their play through the first 3 games this season.
Well, I'll start with William. I think one of the things with William, the game is slowing down for him. I really noticed that Friday night. if you look back, even last year, he had some good games, but he had some games where he struggled. I know there was a 2-game period where he threw 7 interceptions, and it just seemed like he was rushing through his progressions, and maybe not getting all the way through them, and kind of forcing the issue at times where he really didn't need to do that. And we've talked a lot and worked really hard on making good decisions from that spot, and you're starting to see that come to fruition. I think I was looking at the stats the other night, and I believe this year, and now it's early, we're only through 3 games, but I think he has 10 touchdown passes and 1 interception.
That's what I have him down, and that was one of my talking points too.
I think last year he was, and this is just off memory, so I'm not 100% on this, but I think last year he was 20 and 14. So that's quite an improvement. And again, it's early on, but you're starting to see just understanding the offense. He's starting to kind of be on the same page with me a lot. And when we're not, and those few times a night on Fridays when we're not, it's kind of a surprise rather than the norm like it kind of was last year.
Sure.
So, he's coming along, and that's a big thing for us, as you guys know, and the offense that we run, it's kind of a quarterback-driven offense. We like to throw the ball around, and if you don't have a trigger man that can deliver it and that is on the same page as you, it's kind of tough to do what we want to do. And then the other guys that you mentioned, Logan Olinger and Gavin Mead, those 2 are sophomores starting for us. Logan had a really big year for us last year, right around 700-800 yards receiving, and I don't know how many touchdown receptions, but he's kind of a guy that we can put in a number of positions. He also runs like what we would call a wildcat type offense, short yardage.
He had a few rushing touchdowns in the year too.
Yeah, and then we try to get him involved in the backfield besides that too, just trying to get him the ball in different ways. And Gavin's really stepped up this year. Last year as a freshman, he started for us and played and had some big plays for us, but he's really stepped up his blocking on the perimeter, which we challenged him to do. He's a big, strong kid and has some speed, and he's come along in that area. And then also just his understanding of the offense too. It's coming in last year for those kids, not Gavin and Logan. Obviously, they were freshmen, but for William and some of those other guys, the seniors this year, the seniors last year, it was their 3rd offense in the last really year and a half previous to me.
Right.
And again, the offense isn't necessarily easy to grasp, especially from the skilled positions. But we're starting to see some improvements now that we're in year 2 with those guys.
That's good to hear. I'm going to open things up to these guys.
Go ahead, Keith. I'll give you the first shot.
Hey, Coach, has there been a turning point between late last year during the offseason and early this year that you kind of saw your team turning, like you could have something special? Like, was there a game late last year, maybe the Ayersville game, or like a 7-on-7 or some practices that you're just sitting there and you're like, boy, we got something brewing pretty awesome here?
I think that's a great question, and to answer that, I think you hit the nail on the head. It was the Ayersville game, them winning a share of the league title last year, and us still, being a team that couldn't quite get over the hump, and we didn't get over the hump against Ayersville. Don't get me wrong; we had an opportunity there at the end. We almost walked off with a pick 6, and Logan Olinger got shoestringed there at the end. That would have been a great way to end our season and go into the off season. But Ayersville kid made a play, and then they got it done in overtime. But it was kind of a moment where our kids, I think, started to really believe in what we were trying to sell them as a coaching staff, and understanding that, boy, if you do things this way, it can pay off for you. So yeah, we tried to ride that momentum into the off season, and there were times where it wasn't necessarily going as I wanted it to be going early on in the offseason, even through some of the scrimmages, just the consistency. And I think we talked about that before on the preseason show that you guys had. Right. Just not real consistent. And, coming out against Wasion, I thought we kind of put things together offensively. Right now, still not really hitting on all cylinders. We're doing some good things on both sides of the ball and in special teams, but, it's still kind of sloppy in certain areas. A lot of penalties right now. Last game, I think we had 95 yards in penalties, and the Delta game was at or over 100 yards. And our low point this year has been the Wasion game, and that's been 70 yards in penalties. So we've been sloppy that way, and we're not really clicking like we should because of penalties that kill drives for us offensively.
Yeah, and that can be deadly in a game that's close. You know what I mean? So, you talked about your offense and some of your skill position players, but when it comes to your offense, obviously, you got to give him time to throw the ball. how's your offensive line doing? Those guys stepping up?
Those guys have been huge for us. And, we start 4 seniors up front, all of them returning starters, and then a junior at center for us in Jackson Brady. And then the number 1 guy that we have coming off the bench is Cole McStutes, and he's another senior. And, again, year 2 in the offense, they really understand what we want to do with our pass protection. And then in the running game, we probably haven't been as balanced as I would like for us to be. And I think that is because of a couple of different things that maybe we'll get into later on in this session. But no, those guys are doing a great job for us, left to right. We have Cash King, and then Lucas Bonner, Jackson Brady, and then Cole McStutes and John Yeagle rotate at that guard spot, the right guard spot for us, and then Austin Gates at the right tackle. And those guys have done a great job for us early on. And, I think we've given up, and a lot of it is due to scrambling around and kind of giving up a sack. But I think we've only given up 2 sacks so far in 3 games. As much as we throw, we think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's really good. You talked about the turnover or the mistakes. We always talk about that, controlling the controllables, right? Control what you can control, and the 100 yards of penalties could be deadly in a game that you might need here in the future. So I got you guys will get that straightened out.
We better.
You're going to straighten out.
Go ahead, AJ.
Oh, I just, you were talking about Ayersville last year, and you guys are about to kick off the conference play here against them again. Obviously, this year they seem to be struggling a lot, and, who knows, maybe they get things right, and maybe it's just the competition they're playing. Hard to say right now. What are some thoughts that you have going into, another Ayersville matchup against, Coach Mickey?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the first thing that jumps out when you watch film, they've played one of the toughest non-league schedules in the GMC. And we've talked again before, I think Tenora does a really good job scheduling out of conference. I think we do a pretty good job of that. Well, Ayersville's really stepped up their non-league. I think the combined record of their opponents right now is 9-0. So you see that, and the teams that they've played are obviously really good up front, and that's what Ayersville wants to do. They want to be able to run the football, and they want to be able to stop the run defensively. And they graduated a lot of guys up front, a lot of big guys with a lot of experience. And so I think they're just kind of working through right now some inexperience up front. They have the Knieven kid back at running back, and you can see he's still the same kid. It's just he doesn't necessarily have the running lanes that he's had the last few years, and that's making a difference. But, I expect that Coach Mickey's going to have those guys ready to play Friday night, and, they got to be looking at what Delta was able to do on the ground against us, and Brian had some success on the ground against us as well. So they got to be looking at this as an opportunity for them to kind of get it going.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to go on to the next point here. When it comes to football and high-scoring offenses like your team, I feel like people's attention is always drawn to that side of the ball rather than the defense. The offense is always looked at as like the red Corvette, where the defense is, I kind of think of as the Chevy Duramax farm truck. So what I've really been impressed with, as far as you guys, obviously the offense, but the defense and the improvement from last season to this season. I look, and through 3 games, your defense is giving up 17.7 points per game compared to last season. You go back to those 3 games, 49 points per game. So huge improvements there. So just talk about that side of the ball and the job defensive coordinator Ken Boland and your staff have done.
Yeah, and hats off to my coaching staff. Those guys have done a great job of working together. Coach Boland is more of the front guy, and he's our guy that calls the front and the blitzes, the stunts, different things like that. And then Caleb Frank, a guy that played for us in 2020, so a very young coach. He does our back end stuff, and he knows what we want with coverages, and he tends to match that or help Coach Boland match the coverage. And those guys have done a great job preparing. And, a lot of what, the general public, I would say, doesn't know, and you guys understand it because you guys have played and you guys have coached. But what a lot of people probably don't understand, and they probably hear a little bit of it, but don't really get the extent to which they put work in. There's the Saturdays and Sundays of entering data into Huddle, and then looking that data over, and then matching your front and your coverage to what they're doing, and trying to take away their best plays and different things like that. And those guys put in tons of work there, and my hat's off to them. And the kids have so far done a pretty solid job of executing the game plans. Now, There have been times where we're still not doing certain fundamentals and certain techniques the way that they need to be done. And, I guess it's early on in the season, so those things hopefully will come along. But right now, like you said, compared to where we were last year defensively, I think on the season we gave up over 35 points a game last year, and this year we've cut that in half. And that's realistically, that's been our goal going into this year, is to try to cut that number in half.
Keith or Tony?
No, I just say it's an awesome improvement you guys have made, and what's it look like down the stretch for you? You got more of the same? You got anything you're going to change? Anything you're looking at?
No, I don't think so. We base out of the 3-4, and that can be multiple with what we do on the back end. But up front we try to keep that the same, other than a few minor shifts or alignments here and there. But no, I don't. We went to the 3-4. I think back in 2017. And really, I don't think, as long as I'm coaching, unless I get a defensive coordinator that's just out of this world and wants to run a forefront or something like that, I don't see us going away from an odd look. I really like that defense, and I understand it very well, and I think our coaches understand it pretty well and do a pretty good job of coaching it. So I don't see us really ever getting away from that. But again, you never really know what the future holds. So
right.
I think too, with an odd look front, and I can attest playing at college level, playing offensive line, that can really give some different fits for offensive schematics and things like that, especially when you get a lot of different moving pieces at the linebacker level too. So I've seen I think a lot more high school teams running that 3-man front from around the area too. So
yeah, running a lot of stunts out of it.
Yes,
yep.
Yes.
Keith,
I got a whole list of questions. We can keep Coach here all night, but he doesn't. A little bit off the field, Coach. In the past, you've had some academic teams that have been all Ohio. Talk about that a little bit. Like, that's something you obviously take pride in as a person and as a team and as a school district.
Yeah, it's one of the first things that I stressed in our parent meeting, and when I came back, last year, it's one of the first things that we tackled, and that's not just a goal; it's an expectation that we get mentioned in all Ohio, and it's something that we push. We do weekly grade reports and weekly study table, and it's something that I monitor in the off season, and it's just something that I always feel. It's not just a football thing. We strive to be the best in every single area of the person, and that's obviously one, especially when we're talking about the student athlete.
I do want to reel things back to a point you had made, talking about being balanced on the offensive side of the ball, and you had said it now, and I believe your post-game comments against Wasion, you talked about being more balanced from the offensive side of things. So are you still looking to kind of get back to establishing that run game a little bit more, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. And I thought 2 out of 3 games so far this year, the Wasion game and the Bryan game to a certain extent, I thought we did a pretty good job of being more balanced and not just relying on the pass. And balance can mean different things for different coaches and for different teams.
100%.
For us, balance doesn't necessarily mean a 50-50 split. For me, balance means when we need to run the ball, we can run the ball. When we need to throw it, we can throw it. And in the Delta game, it was just kind of a way that the game plan was going and the way that the game itself was going, that we needed to throw the football. And that was kind of what was available that game. I think we threw for over 400 yards. But then on the flip side of that, we had negative 30 yards rushing. And, of course, you include sacks in that. I think we only had maybe 3 or 4 designed runs out of those and had some positive yards, but a couple of really big sacks and a bad snap that also counted against our rushing yards, but not near the balance that you hope for in a game like that. And there are some factors that play into that. Like I said, game plan situation. Delta has a really good front and really good linebackers, and they stayed in that 4-2 about the entire game and really wanted to take away, I think, Williams' ability to scramble and some of the designed runs that we had, and that kind of left them a little vulnerable in the secondary, and we wanted to take advantage of some of the looks that we were seeing in the passing game. But, yeah, we continue to try to add little wrinkles offensively with our running game, and last week we added one of those wrinkles and had a few big plays out of some different formations and same type of runs that we've been doing, but just some different formations, a little different wrinkles that way.
Yeah, I like what you had to say about that. We often talk about that a lot, especially teams that are very pass heavy or run heavy. You got to do the vice versa, the opposite, to at least keep teams on their toes. And it kind of even helps set up, for instance, like if you can establish the run game just a little bit, it helps open things up for the pass game. And we've seen that too for running teams. And actually, we were just talking about that too. Once you get to postseason time, that other, running or passing really pays dividends down the stretch, because I don't care how good you are. If you're a passing team and you can't run the ball 3-4 yards, like you said, when you need it, you're going to struggle down the stretch. So I really like your comments that you had said about that.
Yeah, we've just to add on to that, but we've been in playoff games situations before where actually a regional final against Seneca East in 2018, and all we needed to do was run the clock out. And at that particular time, we really only had an inside zone run play for us, and we couldn't do it. Just a little bit more, and we were 26 seconds away from moving on to the state semis. And it's just situations like that, not
definitely.
to mention weather and things like that. Now, obviously, I think you always, as a coach, as a play caller, you always kind of fall back on what you know the most and what you're most comfortable with. And for me, it's a passing game, but we definitely want to be able to run the football.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another example, you look at Liberty Center and their run they had last year. Everyone and their brother knows Liberty Center runs the football, but the state championship game, you guys were there, they probably threw it, 15 to 20 times?
Yeah, they threw it quite a bit, especially there towards the end. They had to get down the field in a hurry. They had a couple big runs and then started throwing the ball and was able to move the ball down the field.
All right.
And you mentioned in that, Coach, I remember back in the days, the Ryan Radcliffe days,
Yeah.
I was there watching those games, and they didn't run the ball.
No.
And when Sonora beat them twice that year and beat them in the playoffs, and basically, one of the best defensive schemes I've ever seen against them, just said, okay, run the ball, and literally just rushed one guy and dropped 10 in coverage and was able to beat Fairview.
Yep, Coach H. I remember those games well.
Yeah.
And he was dropping 8, 9, 10 guys. 10 guys at times. So, those were interesting games.
Yeah,
I actually
absolutely.
stole that game plan from him in, what would it have been, 2013. I think it was 13, the year Wayne Trace was state runners-up.
Yeah, I was just about to bring up that
And we were 3-7 that year, and we played them in Week 10 and almost beat them because of that defense. So.
That's kind of funny because I remember that defense. It's worked before, but we played Wayne Trace that year. That would have been my sophomore year, and we were playing them, and we ran that same defense, but we got burned by Wayne Trace on that. So, it worked a couple times, but definitely something different. So I think we got time for just a couple more questions.
I got one for you, Coach. You and Coach Mickey and Coach Cooper seem like you're good friends. Do you guys bounce stuff back and forth? Do you have time to do that during the week, or?
We do. I would say Coach Mickey and I, not as much because we play each other.
Yeah, correct.
And so, but it's funny because you flip on the film and, he was my defensive coordinator for years, and we would discuss things because even though I'm an offensive guy, I still, as a head coach, have my hand in the defensive scheme a lot. And so we kind of grew up together in that 3-4 look. And so it's just funny watching film and seeing him do a lot of those things. And I know his calls and he knows our calls. It's interesting. So we don't necessarily talk a lot about scheme when we do talk to one another. Coach Cooper and I, on the other hand, do not playing each other. Right. I've gotten a lot of things from him. Some different plays here and there, a different scheme defensively with what we did with our coverage and different just ways that we roll our coverage. And I'd like to think the year that I coached with him that he was able to take some things from me from an offensive standpoint. So it's nice to have that. It's nice to have a respected person that you really trust that you can bounce ideas off of.
Did that year with Coach Cooper at Defiance bring you back to the love of coaching again?
Oh, it definitely did. It's such a weird situation. It wasn't that I had lost the love. It's just after so many years, I had known nothing else because from the time that I graduated, I was an assistant coach and then went right into head coaching. And then you go back to fifth grade. It had been since fourth grade that I had not spent a fall on the football field. So it was just kind of one of those things that, the wife wanted to do some things, and I wanted to do some things that we hadn't been able to do before. And, we were able to do those things. And to be quite honest with everybody, I loved the time off. It was awesome, and I wouldn't have come back unless Coach Cooper had kind of dragged me back into it. And then once you get back out there, it's almost like a purpose coming back, when that's missing after so long, you kind of lose your purpose a little bit. And that that itch kind of was there then again to be a head coach. Good question.
It's good to have you back. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think I'll ask the last question here. With 7 games left in the regular season, what will it take to continue your early season success and allow your team to compete for a GMC title and a deep playoff run?
Well, I think we have to continue to improve. We've talked about the penalties. That has to improve. What you guys know as well as I do, when you're in close, tight games, those things can be killer. And we've already seen that this year. We've had drives. It seemed like the Delta game, we would get something going, and then we'd get a holding penalty. And, we go from, a 1st and 10 on their or in their territory to a 1st and 20 and deep in our territory. It's just things like that are killers that we need to clean up and, continue to improve defensively. We still aren't where we need to be in terms of stopping the run and a good running attack, and we need to continue to improve there. Special teams-wise, right now we're doing a lot of good things on the special teams units. Some of the guys that we're relying on for depth pieces, both offensively, defensively, and in the special units, those guys need to come along too. We're not where we need to be right now with our depth, and we're continuing to try to push those guys and giving them opportunities. And, we're going to have to step up in those spots in order to get where we really want to be towards the end of the season.
All right, very well said. Good, yeah. Well, I think that wraps things up from us, but I appreciate you taking time to come out here tonight, and we all wish you good luck the rest of the season, and we'll see you play Tenora for sure. So excited for that one a couple weeks down the road. So just want to say thanks again. Any final words, Coach?
No, just thanks for having me out, and, I know people say this to you guys all the time, but thank you for what you do for football in Northwest Ohio. I mean, any type of publicity that we can get, especially in the small school leagues and conferences, we really appreciate it. And, it's just awesome with really the newspapers kind of going away. This is kind of the new media, and you guys promoting football in Northwest Ohio is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach. All right. We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Marco's Pizza is honored to sponsor NWO Sports, serving your pizza of choice in Northwest Ohio. Defiance, Archbold, Wasion, Delta, Bryan, Napoleon, Paulding, and Montpelier. Order online at marcos.com today. Remax Realty of Defiance has represented Defiance County for nearly 40 years. Located at 1401 South Jefferson Avenue in Defiance, we have 13 agents ready and available to assist you in home buying or selling needs. You can check out all the listings at www.remax419.com or call us at 419-784-3029. Let our years of experience go to work for you. For 26 years, Burkholder Taxidermy has been Northwest Ohio's trusted full-service taxidermist. From game heads to lifelike mounts, we provide exceptional quality and craftsmanship. Preserve your memories with Burkholder Taxidermy, where experience meets excellence. Located at 19331 Buckskin Road, Defiance, Ohio. Give them a call at 419-782-9538. Fairchild Family Chiropractic aims to help families to get better together in the least invasive way possible. Dr. Fairchild focuses on the neck using the Blair technique and Palmer package, adjusting to correct spinal misalignments. Located in Defiance, Ohio. Call Dr. Fairchild today at 419-576-5070 to schedule an appointment. DeLarber Concrete and Hauling is your go-to provider for concrete and hauling needs. Flat work, pole barn floors, driveways, and patios. Hauling services for stone, mulch, and dirt. Call Josh for your free estimate at 419-576-0401. We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we are into Play of the Week. And boy, did we have a lot of good submissions this week, but there can only be one. And this goes to Defiance, and that is Anthony Wilder, a touchdown pass to Noah Gomez, and it was absolutely unbelievable catch by Gomez on this trick play. So I'll break it down. I'm going to attach the clip here. With Defiance down 8-10, facing a 4th and 3 with 3:24 to go in the game on St. Mary's 10-yard line, Coach Cooper and the Bulldogs, they decided to go for it. So a lot of guts on this here instead of kicking the field goal. Quarterback Brez Zippel, he fakes the handoff to Gomez, lined up at running back, and hands the ball off to Anthony Wilder on a reverse rolling to the left, with Noah Gomez breaking through the line of scrimmage, and ends up with a phenomenal one-handed grab to put the Bulldogs up and would end up being the game-winning point. So absolutely incredible play. Honestly, a pivotal point in the Defiance Bulldogs season we had talked about earlier. So, guys, what are your thoughts on the play of the week?
Wasn't even really one-handed. It was more like 4 fingers. He kind of just got the tip of the ball with his hand.
Awesome play. Just a nice design, and so I like to say those things of steel to go for it with 4th and 3. Set kicking the field goal. Just special teams. You just never know nowadays.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
So I mean, hats off to Coach Cooper and the Bulldogs for having the guts to go for it there, 4th and 3, and go for the win. It kind of reminded me of the longest yard. We're convicts. We always go for the win. Kind of thing.
Yeah, very, very, very impressive play, gutsy call, and good play-by-play there by Mr. Michael Hearn.
Yeah, Michael Hearn was sending the clip, so we appreciate him, and he's always a good contributor to the podcast as well. But if I had one word to describe this play, it was crisp. It was so smooth and crisp, and just everything flowed so well. It was enjoyable to watch. I reran it a couple times, just trying to figure out actually where Noah Gomez came from running through.
Well, I had to watch it too.
And trying to figure out how he broke through the line of scrimmage. But it's a great play call, and ended up paying huge dividends for the Bulldogs. And like I said, I think that's a turning point in the Bulldogs season, especially against the St. Mary's team that's projected to do very well in the WBL. That's a huge win early on here for Defiance. So excellent play out of those guys for Player of the Week. That's Defiance and Anthony Wilder, touchdown pass to Noah Gomez. Excellent job, guys. Let's move on. We're going to go to Player of the Week from Week 3, and a lot of different players up for nominee. We're going to go through all of them, the list here. Let's kick it off. Antwerp defensive lineman Keegan Gray-Wyckoff, Edgerton quarterback Maddox Baker, Fairview quarterback William Zedike, Eden wide receiver Kendall Briggle, Eden quarterback Kyler Sapp, Baldwin wide receiver defensive back Blake Roanhouse, Delta running back linebacker Landon Lintermoot, Evergreen quarterback Bryce Bolger, Liberty Center running back Waylon Rentz, Columbus Grove running back Trent Barraza, Columbus Grove defensive lineman Kylan Mays, Defiance running back Anthony Wilder, Napoleon quarterback Owen Espinoza, and just a quick mention for him as well. He recently broke the Napoleon all-time career passing yards record was formerly held by Tenora assistant coach Craig Good. So interesting point there, and congrats to Owen. That's a huge accomplishment to have, especially in a program like Napoleon. Napoleon wide receiver defensive back Trey Rubenstein, Holgate running back linebacker Aiden Corser. So guys, a lot of different nominees. Who maybe kind of caught your eye that was in the running for Player of the Week?
For me, it was kind of Barraza having to step in, go play quarterback, and continue to lead Columbus Grove to the win there against a very good PH team. Did a nice job.
I got to go back to Landon Lintermoot from last week. I mean, anytime you're putting up the numbers he's putting up, 306 rushing yards, good grief. He's going to be closing in, like we talked earlier, 1,000 yards rushing here real quick.
That's just crazy, AJ.
Yeah.
Think about that. He's just dominating. For me, I had Eden wide receiver Kendall Briggle, 13 receptions, 165 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kid's just a sophomore, and he's
tearing it up over there.
Absolutely.
Well, after some consideration and a little bit of talking, we ended up going with Defiance running back Anthony Wilder. 12 carries, 186 rushing yards. When you're averaging 15.5 yards a carry, he had 4 receptions, 48 receiving yards, and maybe the biggest moment of his game and highlight, he was 1 of 1 passing for 10 yards and 1 passing touchdown that led to the win. So I think, when you're doing things on all ends, you're catching the ball, you're running the ball, you're throwing the ball.
It's like a Swiss Army knife.
Swiss Army knife.
Do everything.
You have over 200 all-purpose yards, and he also plays special teams, returning kicks too. That's very deserving of NWO Sports Player of the Week, thanks to BSN Sports. So our NWO Sports Player of the Week will receive NWO Sports gear, courtesy of BSN Sports. Again, we thank BSN Sports, strong supporters of us here at the podcast and of Northwest Ohio Athletics. So we just want to thank those guys over there. One other mention, too, we want to give the honorary co-player of the week, and that goes to Tenora kicker, wide receiver, defensive back, Jacob Bishop. We had talked about it earlier in the podcast. 48-yard field goal that should have been good. He did a tremendous job blocking on the perimeter, on defense, making open field tackles. He really was a difference maker in that game. You can say shoulda, woulda, coulda, but definitely want to give this kid a shout-out. He is well deserving of an honorary co-player of the week.
Also caught that pass and took off running to get him in the field goal range.
Yeah, that's true, too.
So that was a big play.
Yeah, so excellent job out of Jacob Bishop from Tenora. Let's move on to power rankings for Week 4. And, again, this is where we break things down, and these guys roast me, and we'll see what their thoughts are on the rankings here. So we're going to start from number 26. We're looking at North Central. number 25, Hilltop, number 24, Swanton, 23, Montpelier, 22, Ayersville, 21, Hicksville, 20, Wayne Trace. Guys, thoughts on this group here?
Adequately ranked, I think.
Yeah.
But if you would have told us that Montpelier and Ayersville would be in like the bottom 5, that's just nuts. Hopefully those two teams can turn their seasons around this week.
Let's move on to the next section here. 19, Bryan, 18, Wauseon, 17, Antwerp, 16, Ottawa Glandorf, and 15, Evergreen.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wauseon's another team that's kind of surprising me right now. They've been traditionally over the last couple of years top 3 or 4 in the NWAL, and this year they're starting off 0-3, and maybe they can right that a little bit as we get into conference play, but never would have thought they would start 0-3 either.
And I think this point in the season, I think things are starting to shape out of where teams kind of belong, whether they deserve to be in the upper tier, the middle tier, lower tier. I think we're really starting to see that now.
Yep.
Next section here, 14, Edgerton, 13, Tenora, 12, Archbold, 11, Lipsick will save the top 10. Thoughts on this group here?
I think I kicked you a little bit for Sonora being ranked so high, but after like kind of earlier in the podcast, I talked about them. They very easily, they were a couple plays away from being 2-1. Yeah. So, yeah, I take that back.
Yeah, I don't have any comments really.
Looks good.
Breaking the top 10, number 10, Van Wert, number 9, Paulding, number 8, Fairview, number 7, Eden, which I think is kind of a shocker to many being up that high. Number 6, Patrick Henry will save the top 5. Thoughts on this group here?
Got it.
Yeah, I think nails it this week.
Perfect.
All right, looking at top 5, the top 5 teams in Northwest Ohio for the power rankings. Number 5, Defiance. Number 4, Napoleon. Number 3, Delta. Number 2, Columbus Grove. And number 1, Liberty Center. Thoughts on the top 5?
I'm not sure about Defiance being that high.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Narrowly lost in overtime.
The big thing,
Napoleon.
Yeah, they did lose Napoleon, but they are below Napoleon. A huge win against St. Mary's. I think that's the big thing. St. Mary's is, I would say, projected to probably win 7 games, 8 games this year and compete for a WBL championship. That was the big thing for me.
Yeah.
Yep. Good to see a program like we talk about all the time, but a program that struggled in the past, Delta, to be as high as they are right now. I like seeing stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of these teams, even Paulding, Fairview, Eden, kind of bringing in the top 10. I think that's just awesome to see. Really giving some of those smaller schools some love, but they're earning it. That's the big thing. So, all right, we're gonna move on. Matthew's Player of the Week. So I got him pulled up here. So last week, if you guys remember, Matthew had Trey Rubenstein from Napoleon on defense, which again Trey tore things up against Northview, and William Zedike from Fairview. He tore up Bryan as well. So. Again, we always say if you're going to Vegas, bring Matthew with you because you're going to be a high roller. On defense this week, Matthew has Eden linebacker Cohen Halbert. Reasoning is Margaretta has really struggled on the offensive side of the ball so far this year, and I think Cohen will take advantage of their struggles and have a big night. And then on the offensive side of the ball, he has Delta running back Landon Lintermoot, which we've heard his name quite a bit over the last few weeks. Reasoning is Bryan has continued to struggle on the defensive side of things, and I'm not sure that they've seen a running back like Lintermoot yet, so I think he will have a big night and wear the Bryan defense down. So excellent analysis from Matthew there. We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with everyone's favorite segment, the Hot Takes. Jimenez Basketball Academy strives to create an atmosphere to cultivate basketball fundamentals in Northwest Ohio youth athletes, offering one-on-one sessions, group sessions, speed and agility training, and much more. Located in Pettisville, Ohio, call Coach Jesse today at 419-551-8105. Check out Tenora Rams Live. Live events broadcast on YouTube and post-game results, articles, schedules, and more can all be found on tenorarams.com. Feel free to look up their Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages as well. Northwest Ohio Basketball hosts premier basketball tournaments for boys in grades 3 to 8 in the area. Upcoming tournaments are right around the corner. Give them a call today at 419-283-5296 or check out their website at nwoball.com. The Drop Zone Pizzeria is the #1 voted pizza restaurant in the region. Check them out for pizza, wings, subs, and more. Located in Ayersville and Stryker, or ask them about their traveling food trailer. Truland Equipment and Salesman Lauren Brown are your go-to for John Deere equipment in Archbold, Ohio. Mowers, compact tractors, skid loaders, and more. Your sales expert on commercial turf and CCE sales. Give Lauren a call today at 419-445-1565. Back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we are on to the Hot Takes presented by BSN Sports. So we got a lot of good ones. Again, hot takes are submitted through fans on social media. They send them in to us, and we discuss them. So let's get things kicked off. And the first hot take is, if Columbus Grove didn't lose their quarterback, they win state this year. For those who don't know, we had mentioned earlier in the podcast, quarterback Landon Best left last game halfway through with an injury, and supposedly I heard it was a broken fibula. Maybe a chance to return towards the very end of the season, like playoff time, but I think that'd probably be pushing it. So, guys, what are your thoughts on this hot take here?
You just never know. I mean, what division are they in?
7.
They're in 7, so they're with Marion Local?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're in with Marion Local, and they're another level.
But the thing that I had brought up is I think they could easily make it to the state championship game as long as the regions play out correctly, as long as you don't get matched up in the state semifinals.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good points. It's just too bad that had to happen to Landon. So best speedy recovery to him. But Division 7, Columbus Grove has heck of an athletes on their team, and they could make it run. We saw PH do it last year.
Yep. Patrick Henry was the example I was going to bring up. Yep. They lost Nash Meyer, longtime quarterback, I believe, 3 or 4 year starter for him, career passing yard record holder. No one and their brother thought that they would make it to the state semifinal game like they did. But I think Columbus Grove's going to still follow suit. They're very well coached by Coach Schaefer, coaching staff over there. I think they're going to be a very resilient bunch of kids. I really think they're going to respond well. I think they're going to kind of rally around, and whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Barraza, whether they have someone else coming in, I think they're going to do a nice job at that. And I think they're still going to make a deep playoff run. And, it's just an added bonus if Landon Best, obviously, a kid that was third-team All-Ohio quarterback as a sophomore last year. If he can come back, that's only going to make you that much better. But I think the Bulldogs, I think they're still going to be okay for the rest of the season. Let's move on to the next one. This is a combined hot take because I had 2 of them. First one is Defiance's Anthony Wilder is the best running back in Northwest Ohio. The other one was Napoleon's George Eggers is the best running back in Northwest Ohio. Well, there's a lot of good running backs in Northwest Ohio, let me tell you that. So obviously you have Anthony Wilder and George Eggers. Just going to read off some of their stats. There's a group of probably 5 or 6 quality backs in Northwest Ohio. Anthony Wilder has 39 carries, 372 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 11 receptions, 105 receiving yards, and 1 passing touchdown on the year. Napoleon's George Eggers has 39 carries, 230 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, 6 receptions, 65 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns on the season. Liberty Center, Waylon Rentz, another guy you can't forget about, 31 carries, 387 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. A couple other backs that deserve recognition from Liberty Center, Garrison Cruz and Thomas Moeller, both great backs. Delta's Landon Littermoot, we've mentioned his name probably about 6 times already on this podcast. 78 carries, by far the most carries out of anyone in Northwest Ohio. 609 rushing yards, 7.8 yards a carry, 11 rushing touchdowns. And Columbus Grove running back Trent Barraza, you can't forget about this kid. First team All-Ohio as a junior. 54 carries, 396 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, and probably have played the toughest non-conference schedule out of any of these teams to start. So who wants to kick this off? There's a lot of good backs in Northwest Ohio. Is it Anthony Wilder? Is it George Eggers? Is it someone else? What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, if you're going by just stats, it's a no-brainer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Lindermoot's got 609 yards through 3 games. I don't think that's even a question. But I don't know, man. I've watched Barraza in person. I haven't watched Wilder or Eggers in person this year. But we've watched Barraza. We've watched Waylon Rentz. Watched Garrison Cruz, Thomas Moeller. Those guys are all quality running backs, man. And to say that Wilder and Eggers are the best, some stiff competition.
I don't know that there's a definitive answer, though, because each of them brings their own unique type of style play to the gridiron.
Yes.
Anthony Wilder, you look at him, he's more of a kind of in the same category as a Trent Barraza, very elusive guys. Wilder's someone you can move around all over the field, but then you got guys like Waylon Rentz and Landon Littermoot that they're going to come right at you and they're going to run you over every single play. So I don't know.
Talking about like Waylon Rentz, he's also splitting carries with 2 other quality running backs.
And that's the thing. So, you look at stats, and some of these guys, the Liberty Center guys, they haven't even played full games, I feel like, half the time. And like AJ said, you're splitting it between 3 different backs that are all getting pretty even carries. I think Rentz is leading the way for the most part. But,
Yeah, I mean, realistically, you're getting 3-ish quarters out of those running backs from Liberty Center, because I think most of the games by the end of the third quarter, they're all out. There's no reason to get them hurt. So splitting carries between the three of them, not a lot to go around when you're not even playing a full game.
Right on.
Yep. Yeah, well, Logan said it perfectly. You got Wilder and Braza, kind of their own different category. They're like old school running backs, like maybe like Barry Sanders or Eric Metcalf. They're elusive, quick as a cat. Then, you got your Eggers and guys like that. It's like John Riggins,
downhill runners,
are just going to Mike Allstott, just going to get the ball, and they don't care if there's a lineman in front of them. They're just going to run straight and just go through that line. So, yeah, there's really no right choice here. I would take any one of these kids.
Yeah, I think it's hard to pick just one. I think it depends on how you want to look at the question. I think it depends on your team, your style of offense.
Yep.
It's hard to truly compare. Maybe at the end of the season, one of these guys really stands out among all the others. But right now, I say that's probably a group of guys that are leading the way for running backs in Northwest Ohio, if you ask me. So am I leaving anyone out? Those are the guys that I kind of looked at in the area that really stood out through the first 3 games. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll move on to the next one. That was a good one. The missed field goal call in the Tenora-Archbold game was one of the worst calls I've ever seen. It cost Tenora a win. We need officials, and I am 100% sure those 2 are good ones, but we will look back at that call as the absolute worst of the season. 2 guys sitting under a goalpost can't see a ball go over the crossbar. Both teams played hard. Was this the worst call you guys have ever seen in high school football? Maybe all time in a football game? Let's discuss that.
Well, we saw the playoffs last year between Tenora and Winford, so that was a playoff game that robbed the victory from Tenora. It wasn't the last play like this, but it seems like
the interception in the end zone.
So if you want to have an excitement towards the end of the game, just come and watch the Rams, because we're guaranteed something's going to happen that you've never seen before in a football game.
So for those of you who don't know, last year during the playoffs, first round, Winford was at Tenora. Winford threw a pass up into the end zone. Jacob Bishop was involved. Jacob Bishop was involved into the defensive back, kind of a jump ball, and
Bishop came down with it.
Bishop came down with it, had the ball, presented it to the referee. I didn't even really think it was a tie up in the air.
There
wasn't really a question
because they landed separate.
It was initially declared an interception. The officials overturned the call, which I was more shocked that they actually overturned the initial call that they had. And that was a pivotal moment in the game. And then there was another questionable call at the end when Grady Gusweiler for Tenora, I believe, was it 4th down?
Fumbled the ball in the end zone.
He kind of stretched out
towards the goal line.
And fumbled it. And I think it was the right call, but again, at the end, there was no definitive call by the officiating group, and the sheriff deputies had to escort that group off, which I've never seen that before either. So,
as far as worst call, honestly, from an officiating, mechanical standpoint, I would say the one last year against Sonora was probably the worst one I've ever seen, because the way it unfolded and the mechanics from the referee side of it was absolutely atrocious.
You're talking the interception or the fumble?
The interception.
Okay.
Yeah, just the way they handled that call from, every aspect of it was just terrible. The field goal miss this year, it's just a bad call. The refs missed it, whatever. Refs miss calls all the time. This one just happened to be the most costly for
I was
Sonora.
going to say, but to miss a game-winning field goal,
absolutely.
48-yarder that
To me, this one, it's not hard to see a ball go over goalpost, guys. I'm sorry. It's not hard to see it. And you're standing right underneath the stinking goalpost. And your only job is to watch the ball go across the goalpost. And to me, that one was blown, completely 100% blown. And I'm pretty sure the guy on the right-hand side of the video knew it went over. If you watch the video, you see him kind of nod like he thinks it went over. The other guy is saying no. And then that's the pause, and then 10 seconds transpire.
I'm going to say that
they make the call.
If you're an official, that's never a good look if you are paused for a long period of time, because that just shows you're uncertain of what the actual call is. If you both look at each other, you're both on the same page. But if there's an extended period of time, and it felt like an eternity.
Oh, right. Yeah. Like I said, it was 10 seconds.
It was 10 seconds, but it felt like maybe 30 to a minute.
It felt forever. But like going towards Logan's point, you have two guys underneath the goalpost we discussed earlier. I don't think the one to the left was aligned right so he could see the ball go over the goalpost. But the indecisiveness, you actually have more officials out there that maybe had a clearer view of it actually going over the goalpost. So if these two guys back here are looking at each other and they don't know, I'm assuming that everybody that's looking at the ball from the front vantage point knew that it went over.
You would have thought.
You shot that the one or two of the officials that are out in the field of play would have actually saw it go over the crossbar, and they would have asked the third opinion, whatever. But that didn't happen. So,
and I hate to criticize officials, but I mean that was just a blown call.
Yeah,
I mean it really
completely.
was, and that's the thing that I've said. Some people are like, "Well, you get a uniform out and go out there." Well, if I mess up at my job and I do something really bad, I'm going to be criticized and I'm going to hear it from people.
And we'll be held accountable.
I mean,
Well,
I think that's any job.
Yeah.
Logan, I mean, you and I in our position, we screw up, we're getting sued, and
You're
for
hurting
millions.
someone, you're getting sued for
we're hurting
thousands
somebody.
of millions of dollars.
So, I mean, to hold them accountable for a job they're paid to do on Friday night, it's what they're supposed to do. I mean, they are expected to make those calls because
said,
they're
there's-
there.
I will say
There's
being-
judgment. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, being officials, probably one of the tougher.
Right.
You know, obviously, at the high school level, you don't typically make a career out of it. Like that's the sole thing you do, but that's definitely a tough position to hold. But if you're going to do it well. I mean, that's the thing. That's my motto. I do everything 110%. I mean, whether it's this podcast, whether it's playing football, whether it's doing whatever, just go out and do the best you can.
A judgment call is one thing. This one, you're literally watching it, whether it goes over or doesn't go over. It's not a judgment call whether I thought, maybe it was pass interference, maybe it wasn't pass interference. But I'm going to go back to the second part of this, maybe all time in all football games. Are we talking about pro and everything?
Yes, I wanted to bring that up.
I'm sorry,
not
but
even close.
the time the dude from New Orleans got blown up
for the championship game.
the championship game,
Yeah.
and there was no pass interference penalty called. That's got to rate up there at the top five for sure.
5
That
years
literally guy
ago.
just took him out, and they didn't throw the flag. I'm like,
Well, while we're on the topic, another example, another Tenora example, Tenora Wayne Trace.
yeah.
Last year.
That's 3 games of Tenora in the last year and a half.
Last
that-
6
Not
games
even.
probably.
The last 6 games that have had very, very controversial calls. Even if you go back, this was less, but the Archbold game last year, that one where Tenora had caught the ball and his foot was out of bounds.
Oh yeah, Trent DeLarber.
In the in the NFL, if you do
NFL,
that, it's
yeah.
considered a kick out of bounds,
Yeah,
but
kick out of
in
bounds.
high school it's not or whatever. But the Wayne Trace game, the game had ended, I believe, Tenora's
interception.
ended on an interception.
Owen Ackerman.
Was it Radzik?
No.
Radzik.
Was it Cade Radzik?
Radzik had thought the game was over, no whistles, the play wasn't blown dead, hands the ball, he's walking out of the end zone, hands the ball to a Wayne Trace kid, and the Wayne Trace kid runs it in. I believe technically that should have been a Wayne Trace touchdown because nothing was blown dead, but the officiating crew walked off the field and
Didn't say anything.
and
just
didn't
walked
say
off.
anything, and it was so confusing for everyone. But yeah, those are 3 plays, and like Keith said, if you want some excitement in terms of officiating, go watch a Tenora football game.
Yeah,
So.
and for those that are going to be like, oh, well, you're just Tenora fans, so of course everything's against you. That Wayne Trace one would have cost Tenora the game if they had
Yeah.
gotten that call right.
Yeah.
So
And-
it's not so much that we're mad that
and
Tenora
the
is getting
people-
screwed, it's that the officiating has not been –
People can say what they want. I literally called that when he handed him the ball. I'm like, oh, guys, that's a touchdown. I was like right there on that one because he didn't take a knee after he caught the ball in the end zone or nothing. He just caught the ball and kind of ran out and handed the ball to the Wayne Trace kid. And the Wayne Trace kid kind of stood there for a second and like, oh, and then ran out of the end zone. Then everybody started yelling. So anyway.
Oh, just a couple more comments. Oh, what was the thing I wanted to say? Oh, the comments on that kick. I was dying on social media. One of them's like, yeah, the kick was no good, but did you see the kicker that was in the grassy knoll off to the side? And that's what kind of went through my mind is people were literally screen recording this clip and they were running it back and running it in slow motion. Everyone was trying to be like an investigator on this thing, and it was just unbelievable to see. But yeah, I did kind of think of the grassy knoll, and that was pretty funny.
That was
But
fun.
The Pruder film.
yeah, no kidding. Who would have ever thought at a high school football game? So
never did I ever think we'd see 3 million views pop up on that video.
And it went
That's
Sports
wild.
Illustrated, man.
Sports Illustrated too,
had it
so.
on SI.com.
yeah, that call will live on forever. So. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. Paulding takes the GMC this year. They go 10-0, 9-1 in the season. One or the other is what they're saying. Their defense will win the GMC. Bet the farm. Hey, that means a lot over in Paulding County there.
It does. That's
betting the farm.
Quality farmland over there.
So
Paulding takes a GMC this year, 10-0 or 9-1.
And like we had said earlier, Paulding's defense, they've only given up 137 yards in the season, 0.67 points per game, though they have played a poor strength of schedule. Tony, you want to start first?
I just look at the comment there. I won't repeat it. But, Paulding hasn't played a strong schedule yet. I mean, the true test is going to be in a couple weeks when they go against Fairview, and that'll be it right there. That'll be the test, the big matchup for them. I think Tenora's going to play him tough. We've talked about Ayersville's struggles.
Edgerton's played well.
Edgerton's playing well as well. So we'll see how Paulding matches up as we start going down. I don't think they've played the schedule for them to say, hey, let's bet the farm. Let's give a few more games here.
I mean,
if you've played PH, you've played, Delta, you've played, and you've knocked off those 3 teams, you're 3-0. Then I'm like, okay, hey, this team might be the real deal and take the GMC.
Well, that's where Fairview's sitting at. They've played 2 NWL teams, Bryan and Wasion, and beat them both.
Yep.
So
and lost to Delta.
I was just about to say, Paulding better be careful because Apaches may come in and steal that farm out of Paulding County.
give it back to the Indians.
Oh boy.
Keith, you got any thoughts on this?
No, you guys did everything on that.
Yeah, I think the primary nemesis of Paulding this season is going to be the Apaches. I think that game is really going to shape up the GMC. We had talked about some of the other teams in the running. Edgerton's kind of there. Tenora's still trying to figure things out. Ayersville's really kind of struggled. Hicksville's kind of struggled. Antwerp still trying to figure some things out. But I think Paulding's number one trouble is going to be the Fairview Apaches. And that comes up, I believe, in a few weeks.
2 weeks, I think.
A couple weeks down the road. So
3 weeks from this Friday, I believe.
But and I had talked to, and you cannot take any team lightly in the GMC this year. I don't care who you are, whether it's from Ayersville to Hicksville to Fairview to Paulding. You got to bring your best every single night because if not, one of these teams is going to snatch up a win. And I think it's critical that these kids, from whatever team you're at, you bring the best every night. And I think we're going to see some of the best football we've seen, maybe not in terms of talent, but in terms of good football games to watch that are going to come down to the final wire in the GMC. Yeah. Let's move on to the next hot take here. Every Northwest Ohio coach should be showing their team the Lions' overtime drive from Sunday night. So for those of you who don't know, the Lions ended up winning in overtime over the Rams. That overtime drive was a tough, gritty drive. They ran the ball 7 out of 8 plays down the entire field to win the game. And just kind of going off this hot take, I think that's something we've seen a lot of teams revert back to this season. A lot of teams are running the ball, and they're running it pretty well for the most part. We've seen teams that have made changes. Wasion, they went back to the wing tee and are running the ball a little bit more. In years past, we had seen them throwing the ball more. So, guys, what are your thoughts on this hot take here?
I think that is a very good point, number one. Number two, the Lions' defense was gassed because they were just on the field in overtime, and the Lions tied the game. And, yeah, it was a very impressive drive by Detroit. Every coach in Northwest Ohio should be showing that drive. I said something similar to that when Mount Union came to Defiance College last year, that every offensive coordinator in Northwest Ohio should have came and watched that game and took notes of the Mount Union offense because that was such a precise, every single motion had a reason on the field.
That's why they're national champions
Absolutely.
every single year in Division III, pretty much.
But,
or a lot of the years, I should say.
Good point, though. Yep. Very impressive drive by the Lions in OT.
Yeah, I even think
mentioned it. I mean, a lot of teams are going back to that run game, especially in high school. And yeah, I mean, run the ball. If you can run the ball, run the ball.
Yeah, and I think teams should look at Dan Campbell even as a coach. I mean, look at that guy. I saw a video the other day in training camp. He's doing up downs with the players, and he's a hard coach. He's a tough coach. But again, I think sometimes certain teams need that in the area. I think sometimes. Maybe some coaches are a little softer on their players and they don't always get the full potential, but I don't know. I guess the way I was coached and played, I like a little bit of a tougher coach. I like someone to get on me, kind of light that fire under you. And not to say that I couldn't do it myself, but I like that intensity out of a coach. And I think Dan Campbell does that really well. I think his players feed off of it. And I think that's something, especially at the high school level, if you can bring that excitement to a program and you yourself, show a lot of emotion, I think that can pay a lot of big dividends for a football program.
Plus, he's got some really good commercials.
Yeah. Yep. Did you see, speaking of commercials, did you guys see Jim Harbaugh's recent commercial, that AI commercial?
That's great.
He's just such a goof. I like him a lot. I know a lot of people hate him, but he's a good coach. You can't deny that. But
so funny.
that AI commercial is pretty funny. Just so awkward, I feel like. All right, let's move on to the next hot take. Andy Schaefer from Columbus Grove is the best coach in Northwest Ohio and possibly the state. That's a bold statement. So someone had brought this up, and we know Coach Schaefer, and we really enjoy the Columbus Grove coaching staff, the players, the community, all do excellent job. But the best in the state, Northwest Ohio, I think he's definitely up there, no doubt in my mind. State, that's tough. You look at some other guys, some guys that came to mind. Tim Goodwin from Marion Local, 309 and 48 in 24 years, 14 state championships, 3 state runner-ups. That's another level. Like, he's for sure a Hall of Fame coach. Tiger Laverde from Kirtland, another coach that comes to mind, 249 and 30, 19 years, 7 state championships, 5 state runner-ups. Guys like Chip Otten from Coldwater, Nate Moore from Massillon, Ted Ginn from Glenville. You look at some other area coaches that are, probably Hall of Fame caliber coaches. Bill Inselman, one of the coaches in the area that have the most wins. Mike Vickers, we had him on last week, the Wizard. Coach Casey Moeller, though he's a little bit younger in the head coaching realm, he's done an excellent job. Bob Olin from Eden, another excellent coach that's been around for a long time. I feel like he's almost not the creator of the spread offense, but a huge ambassador of it, and a lot of people go to him and continue to learn. And then you got guys like Ken Schreiner. I feel like that kind of get forgotten about at Ottawa Glandorf. He's been there 29 years, 198 and 116 record, a couple state semifinal appearances, and then David Dominic from Archbold last week. He's kind of a younger coach as well, but another solid coach. I don't know, guys. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I definitely think one of the best ones in Northwest Ohio. Maybe not the best, but he's definitely in that conversation. But state, I think that's another level. I think you look at Tim Goodwin and Tiger Laverde, those guys are in another tier way beyond, I think, anyone else.
Like even Ted Ginn Jr., who's not on your list, Logan, but he's pretty impressive as well. So, we love Coach Schaefer, but boy, oh boy, there's some really good names on here. Tim Goodwin, Coach Coach Vickers, Casey Moeller, even Coach Dominic, I believe after last week is 75 and 24 overall. So 75% winning percentage, basically, or 76 and 25, whatever it was.
He's doing a great job there. He's been doing fabulous in the last 5 years.
He's really revived that program, I feel like.
And I honestly think he might be one of the funniest coaches we get to.
I love talking to him. He's by far one of my favorite coaches to talk to.
Definitely got
some one-liners. And
I guess I'm trying to think of what the word I'm looking for, but he's just a lot of fun to be around. He's
great guy. Yeah, just a great human being.
Charismatic.
Very. That's good. Perfect word,
charismatic.
AJ.
And I'll never forget the whole Christmas thing when we were over at Findlay. It still cracks me up. Like I said, it just cracks me up because we were walking on the field. He's getting ready to play for a playoff game. And he comes over, walks over, and starts talking to us. Well, we're nobodies, man. I don't know. He comes over and starts talking to us like we're somebody. And then he starts talking about the kids over there in the Christmas outfits. And I'll never forget that. It was hilarious.
That was a great moment.
When it comes down to being one of the best that in the state, I'm sorry. I love Coach Schaefer, but I mean, when you're talking about people like Tiger Laverde, Tim Goodwin, Ted Ginn, I mean, you're putting him up there with. Sorry, but those guys are a next level. I mean, those guys are just, superstars.
Yeah,
but he's definitely one of the best in the area.
Oh, 100%. Best in the area, and like you had said, I just feel like there's a group of a handful of guys, like you had mentioned, that they're just at that next tier. I mean, when you get to your winning percentage, I don't know, what is 309 and 48 winning percentage? It's probably a
bunch.
Way above 80%, probably 80% plus.
I mean, when you look at Tiger Laverde.
14 state championships from Marion Local. Right. That's unheard of.
Well, and Tiger Laverde has 7 state championships and 5 state runner-ups in 19 years. So 12 years that he's been there, they've been in the state championship game. It's just unreal.
Keith, AJ?
No, that's about summarizes it. Can't say much more about some of those, MAC school coaches. They do what they do.
Yeah, Chip Otten's another good one from Coldwater.
Yeah.
Coldwater is always a solid program. It's hard to pick just one, but Coach Schaefer is definitely up there with the best of the best. Yep. The best, that's a little bit tougher, but definitely a great guy, great coach. A lot of coaches in Northwest Ohio, and hopefully we can get some more of these guys on the podcast because a lot of these guys that are some of the better ones in the area and the state, they're fun, a lot of fun to talk to, and just the wisdom they have for the game. Really appreciate talking to them. So
I would take any of them to sit down and I don't drink coffee, but sit down and have a coffee or have a beverage with them and just chat, because some of them just have such great personalities.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because it just kind of got us talking about some of the legendary coaches in the area, and there's a lot more than you think in local Northwest Ohio. So he's definitely one of the better ones. Let's look at the last hot take here, and that is the best football movie to watch every single time it is on, and even just have on in the background, is The Replacements, which is also nearly a perfect football movie. Discuss. This was sent in from our friend Michael Hearn.
Best football
I've never
movie.
seen this movie.
Replacements. Keanu Reeves.
I've never seen it.
That's not a bad movie.
It's actually a good movie.
Not a bad movie at all.
I've only watched bits and pieces.
As far as being the best football movie, I mean, we're talking Varsity Blues,
Friday Night Lights.
I got a couple of lists. I'm going
Division
through here.
III football's finest. No, I'm just kidding.
For like the old school Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, I was saying longest yard's always a good one. Like turn
Longest
on,
Yard, like
all the right moves.
Oh, I was just going to say
All
for
Right
me,
Moves.
All the Right Moves. Whenever that's on with Tom Cruise, that's one of his first movies. I love that movie.
Yeah.
Coach Nickerson, out there with the old school, out there with a golf club, hitting kids on top of the helmet, grabbing their face mask. Now, Replacements. Yeah, it's a good movie as far as being the best. I don't know, I'd like Varsity Blues, All the Right Moves, Longest Yard, probably before that. But and Friday Night Lights, even the movie and TV series. The TV series was great.
Guys, I was just thinking, fun fact about me, I have only actually watched probably one football-related movie all the way through. Can you guess which one it is?
The new Longest Yard.
Yeah, how'd you know that? Really? Seriously. Yeah, seriously.
Adam Sandler.
That's something that someone's asked me, like, you haven't watched that movie? And, yeah, I mean, I love football, but I guess I've never sat down and watched all these other movies.
Yeah.
I've seen bits and pieces of them, but I've never sat down and watched them all the way through. But the only one is The Newest Longest Yard with Adam Sandler. I can't believe you got that right off the bat.
Here's another old schooler, like Wildcats, where Goldie Hawn comes and plays the coach. No, that's a really good. I mean, it's not a great movie, but it's a funny movie.
Was it First and 10? First and 10 was the movie.
That was
wasn't
a HBO TV series.
That was a TV series.
Yes. I think Wesley Snipes is in that Wildcats, if I recall, where she comes and takes over as a football coach.
Yeah. That's another one.
I don't know. I'm going to have to take a day and go through and watch a lot of these. I think someone asked, you haven't watched The Blind Side? The Blind Side was another one.
a good movie.
I've never seen
I haven't seen that one either.
Oh, I'm trying to think.
Concussion, like More Serious, is a good movie.
What's the classic movie? What is it?
Rudy.
Remember the Titans?
Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans.
I've watched bits and pieces of that. That's another one that was kind of brought up in some popular football movies.
That one. That's a really good movie.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. What would you say your favorite is?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I don't know. I really like the Adam Sandler Longest Yard, but when it gets down to like the nitty gritty of football and just the timing and all that, because I really kind of like Remember the Titans. That's a good movie. Yep. Denzel Washington does a nice job.
Keith, what about yours?
For me, if I'm home flipping through the channels and, like I said, Varsity Blues is on, I'm stopping and watching that. And All the Right Moves with Tom Cruise and Greg T. Nelson as a coach. Ironically, he went on to play the coach.
AJ, what about yours?
I mean, I know whenever we're watching TV and stuff, and Longest Yard with Adam Sandler is on it. It's just a movie that gets put on TV. So we always stop on that one and just watch it because it's always a good movie to at least have in the background. It's kind of like watching like Friends or something. You
right.
You know the movie so well.
Why can't I be quarterback? Hit me. I'm open. There you are. Now sit down and shut up.
You broke it in my nose.
But probably The Blind Side. I actually do really like that movie. It's one of the few that, I've never actually sat down and watched a lot of these movies start to finish and know them well. Blind Side's one of the very few that I've seen enough to actually know the movie.
Feel good story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I guess for me, I would have to say the newest Longest Yard with Adam Sandler, because that's the only one I've watched all the way through, and that's a funny movie. I like watching it. But I've seen bits and pieces of The Replacements. It is a good movie. I'd like to go and watch that one all the way through. But there's a lot of good football movies out there. I just haven't sat down and watched them. So,
You want to talk about NFL? The NFL football?
Oh, yeah, we could finish that real quick.
Because I actually have some opinions on that one.
Yeah, we'll finish it up. Actually, I skipped over this one. Last hot take. If the NFL kickoff rules ever make it to Ohio high school football, every program should boycott. So we were kind of discussing. So the new NFL kickoff rules, basically, there's no more running start. Everyone starts, 5-10 yards apart?
Yep.
And so there's no running down the field. The kicker has to kick it into a landing zone, which is 30 yards in?
20, I
Is it
think.
20?
20 to the goal line.
And then once the ball either hits or the player catches it, then everyone can move. Onside rules regarding that, there is no longer onside kicks before the fourth quarter. You have to declare your onside kicking because of the alignment everyone's in. So gone are the days of the surprise onside kick, kind of like the Pat McAfee little dribbler right up the middle. Probably won't ever see that again.
Archibald attempted Friday night.
Yeah, they did.
They had that been offsides.
But I 100% agree. I don't like it. It's goofy. It takes away from the game. I know that the NFL, the whole motive is it's supposed to, I believe, promote more kick returns.
Yeah, that and just player safety.
Player safety.
Player safety.
Like, honestly, the first time I saw it was, I'm dating myself as far as age, so those you old school fathers out there, it kind of reminded me of the old electronic football game that you had when as a kid, where like everybody was just stationary, and then you hit the power button, then all of a sudden everybody just like jiggles around.
Oh, I know.
That's what it kind of reminded me of. It's like nobody's moving. What's going on here? But it's just bizarre. I mean, I don't know. Us old school football traditionalists don't care for it, but leagues are making changes. Baseball, football. I mean, most of them are kind of goofy to me, but whatever works for everybody else, I guess.
This is the one. Now I'm going to say that the onside stuff, that's stupid. They basically got rid of the onsides. The whole point of that was to be a surprise and try to catch people off guard.
Yep.
Obviously, certain situations you kind of expect an onside kick, but to not be able to do it mid-game, that can be a huge turning point for a team if they catch you off guard, like Archibald did, like second quarter or third quarter, whatever it was. It was early. Yeah. You catch a team off guard and can change the whole momentum of the game, but now that's not even a thing. But on the flip side of that, in the NFL, you're dealing with athletes that are a whole nother realm nowadays. I mean, back when I was in high school and looking at like combine records and what people ran, like a 4.7 was a decent speed for like a lineman or for a linebacker. 4.4 was like your top receiving athlete. Like your fastest guys on the field were like a 4.4. Now, I mean, we're seriously encroaching on the like sub 4 mark here in the next 10 years.
Yep. What was the fastest? What was that 4.1 something?
4.13, I think, at the combine this year.
And on top of that, these athletes are not getting smaller. They're getting much, much bigger. When I was in high school, I was ecstatic when I saw 4.7 come up. I was like 4.78 or something like that when I was a linebacker doing a lot of training. 4.7 was good at 200 pounds. Now there are 320-pound linemen running 4.7s. Yeah. They are hitting you with the force of literally a truck nowadays. Those guys up front that, like on a kickoff, that are sprinting downfield to hit that first guy are no longer running 10 miles an hour at 300 pounds. They're running 20 miles an hour at 250 or 350 pounds. They're hitting you so much harder than they used to, and people don't think that through. They think, oh, well, nowadays game is getting weaker and weaker, but you don't understand the caliber of athletes is way up here now. Yep. And that's the thing. And, going to high school, that change hasn't happened as much. Athletes are still kind of the same caliber athletes in high school as they were when I was in school. Like, you haven't seen that drastic change. So if the NFL kickoff rule switched to, high school, I think that would be a waste of, time and energy to switch that. I think NFL or the way high school kickoffs are now, it's still fine. I mean, I don't think there's a reason to change it. And I think even in college, you start getting some of those real top tier athletes in the bigger schools, the Big Ten, SEC teams. But the real problem comes in when you're looking at, 30-year-olds, late 20s hitting somebody at that speed. That's where the real problem comes in.
Yeah, you mentioned the speed. There was I watched a video the other day that showed the fastest runs, and one of them was at 24 point some mile per hour. I mean,
crazy.
you're talking about a guy that's probably 6'2". It was a running back, probably 6'2", probably weighs 230, 235. As a running back. We've talked about this before. At that kind of force, you're not going to stop a concussion. I don't care what you do. But to me, when it comes to that kickoff rule, if you're going to go to that, just get rid of the kickoff. Give the ball on the 25 and let's rock. It's just a waste of time to me. It's just It looks dumb and it's a waste of time. Just put the ball on the 25 and go play.
Honestly, I won't be surprised in the next decade or so if they go like the CFL and just have like a wider field. I mean, I don't know if that's going to solve player safety, but there's more space, I guess, between players. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, but I'm not a fan of it. I don't know.
Yeah,
the game of football has been around for a long time. Like Keith said, I feel like I'm a football traditionalist. I don't like change when it comes to things like that. So, little changes. Like I know in college football they implemented the 2-minute warning or the 2-minute whatever. I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It kind of lets you rest up, reset. You got 2 minutes to go to drive. I kind of like that. Fair catch on kickoff returns. If you're within the 20-yard line, you fair catch it, you get it out for a touchback. I like that one's okay too, but like huge changes in terms of kickoff, and you're really drastically changing the game. I'm not a fan of that.
You take away that part of the game, and then if you're going to do that, then you're going to start doing that to the punt as well. At some point, okay, now I can't do a punt. I don't know.
I just think it takes away because we talk all the time. There's 3 parts of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. Well, basically, you're eliminating that third aspect of the game,
right?
Which a lot of times that's a dividing factor for a win or a loss.
Yep.
So, Yep, very good hot takes. So again, the hot takes are submitted by fans. They send those in every week. Again, we have a blast with these. There's a lot of good ones, a lot of controversial ones as well. But again, this is probably our favorite segment and a lot of people's too. So thank you guys for sending them in. And thanks to BSN Sports for sponsoring this segment. We're going to go ahead and take a break to hear from our sponsors. We'll be back with game predictions and closing thoughts. BSN Sports is your go-to business for purchasing uniforms, equipment, spiritwear, and anything else your athletic program needs, giving you more time to impact lives on the field. With over 1,200 sales professionals who live, work, and serve in your community, you're always just a short drive or phone call away. Be sure to give your local sales rep and Jim Garris a call for any of your athletic supply needs. Optimal Performance Fitness is your go-to gym in Northwest Ohio, providing group fitness classes, personal training, and sports performance sessions for area athletes. Located in Napoleon, Ohio. Give them a call today at 419-438-7265.
Baden Stevens Body Shop is your #1 voted auto body shop in Northwest Ohio. We are your experts on all makes and models and are the only Chrysler, Ford, and GM certified collision repair center in the area. Located in Jewel, Ohio. Give us a call today at 419-497-3111 to schedule your free estimate. Come check out the Baden Stevens Body Shop difference.
Marco's Pizza is honored to sponsor NWO Sports, serving your pizza of choice in Northwest Ohio. Defiance, Archbold, Wauseon, Delta, Bryan, Napoleon, Paulding, and Montpelier. Order online at marcos.com today. RE/MAX Realty of Defiance has represented Defiance County for nearly 40 years. Located at 1401 South Jefferson Avenue in Defiance, we have 13 agents ready and available to assist you in home buying or selling needs. You can check out all the listings at www.remax419.com or call us at 419-784-3029. Let our years of experience go to work for you. For 26 years, Burkholder Taxidermy has been Northwest Ohio's trusted full-service taxidermist. From game heads to lifelike mounts, we provide exceptional quality and craftsmanship. Preserve your memories with Burkholder Taxidermy, where experience meets excellence. Located at 19331 Buckskin Road, Defiance, Ohio. Give them a call at 419-782-9538. Fairchild Family Chiropractic aims to help families to get better together in the least invasive way possible. Dr. Fairchild focuses on the neck using the Blair technique and Palmer package, adjusting to correct spinal misalignments. Located in Defiance, Ohio. Call Dr. Fairchild today at 419-576-5070 to schedule an appointment. DeLarber Concrete and Hauling is your go-to provider for concrete and hauling needs. Flat work, pole barn floors, driveways, and patios. Hauling services for stone, mulch, and dirt. Call Josh for your free estimate at 419-576-0401. Jimenez Basketball Academy strives to create an atmosphere to cultivate basketball fundamentals in Northwest Ohio youth athletes, offering one-on-one sessions, group sessions, speed and agility training, and much more. Located in Pettisville, Ohio. Call Coach Jesse today at 419-551-8105. Check out Tenora Rams Live. Live events broadcast on YouTube and post-game results, articles, schedules, and more can all be found on tenorarams.com. Feel free to look up their Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages as well. Northwest Ohio Basketball hosts premier basketball tournaments for boys in grades 3 to 8 in the area. Upcoming tournaments are right around the corner. Give them a call today at 419-283-5296 or check out their website at nwoball.com. The Drop Zone Pizzeria is the #1 voted pizza restaurant in the region. Check them out for pizza, wings, subs, and more. Located in Ayersville and Stryker, or ask them about their traveling food trailer. Trueland Equipment and Salesman Lauren Brown are your go-to for John Deere equipment in Archbold, Ohio. Mowers, compact tractors, skid loaders, and more. Your sales expert on commercial turf and CCE sales. Give Lauren a call today at 419-445-1565. We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we are on to Week 4 game predictions. So let's roll through and see who we have picked for this week. Starting off with the first matchup, Antwerp 2-1 at Edgerton 2-1. Antwerp still, I think they're trying to find their identity a little bit. We've seen them, drop a game early in the season. They're coming off a win. I just don't know. I know Coach Hale, he's a great coach over there. But I think Edgerton's kind of found their groove here as of recent. I'm going to go with the Edgerton Bulldogs, and I think they take this one by at least 2 scores.
Yep. I think Coach Schlegel has the Bulldogs playing well. I'm taking the Bulldogs as well.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bulldogs.
I'm taking the Bulldogs at home.
And Matthew had Edgerton, so Edgerton across the board. Next game, Ayersville 0-3 at Fairview 2-1. We heard Coach Rakes discuss this game a little bit before. Ayersville is they're kind of struggling a little bit to start the season. They've got a couple good athletes. Torrin Knieven is a great running back, but again, we know they graduated a lot of their offensive linemen. They like to run the ball. Fairview, total opposite. They like to throw the ball a lot. Doug Rakes' offense that he adopted from Coach Olwin. I think Fairview takes this one. They're one of the teams that we predicted to win the GMC too, and I think they win this one big, 3 or 4 scores.
Heck of a game last year when we're basically down to the final play. Unfortunately for this season, I think Fairview wins big.
Yeah, it's going to get ugly quick, I think, with Fairview on top.
Apaches.
And Matthew had Fairview. Fairview from all of us. Next game, Tenora 0-3 at Hicksville 1-2. We'll be at this game with Tenora Rams live broadcasting. I had talked to Tony a little bit. I could see this game going one of 2 ways. I think Tenora wins this one pretty handedly, or Hicksville puts up a fight and could give them a little bit of trouble. It's really going to depend on how Tenora responds after that heartbreaker loss to Archbold last week on the field goal. So I'm going to go with the Rams. I think they end up winning this one. I think they prevail. I think the kids' mindsets, I think they get right on track, and I think they start off the conference with a 1-0 start. I'm going Tenora.
Rams had a rough 3 games, 0-3, defense playing well. Played well last week. Actually, as we said, final quarter, things fell through the cracks. But offense still looking for the identity. I think this is the week that everybody steps up. Rams get a win, and they win the next 7 games in a row, and they finish 7-3.
Wow.
Oh,
Bold
take.
statement.
Ooh, just dropped
Hot
that
take.
ball.
I think Tenora definitely is going to get back on track with this week here. I think the 0-3 is kind of deceiving for them because they have played very well with the exception of a few key plays, and we've mentioned that. And I think Hicksville is going to give them a chance to kind of right that a little bit and kind of get themselves in a groove. And maybe Keith's right. I don't know. We'll find out.
All right. Well, I'm telling you right now, I'm picking the Rams, but I tell you what, I'm just excited about going to Hicksville because I love that facility. It's like Edgerton.
It's
one
kind
of
of
those
like Edgerton,
great
yes.
places to watch games. I'm excited to be there, but I think the Rams are going to take it.
No track field. We like those. We should get shirts made up. I heart no track fields. That'd be a good one. Matthew had Tenora as well. Tenora across the board. Next game is going to be our NWO Sports Game of the Week. The Black Swamp fight for, I think they have a trophy too, right?
Yeah,
Black
I forget
Swamp
what it
rivalry.
is, yep.
And Wayne Trace 0-3 at Paulding 3-0. Oh man, I think this is the first true test for Paulding. Similar to what Tenora is, I feel like that 0-3 record for Wayne Trace is a little bit deceiving. Wayne Trace has been in a lot of games to start the season, but I think I'm going to go with the Paulding Panthers. I think if they're going to be real and they're what everyone is saying they are and know what they're capable of, I think the Panthers come out with a win. But I think this one is not as big as what everyone thinks. I think maybe Paulding wins this one by about 14 or so.
Yeah, I think you just said it, Logan. I think this is a lot closer than what people think it's going to be. But I have Paulding coming out with a slight edge here.
Yeah, I'm going to take Panthers at home here.
And I'm giving this to the Paulding because they're at home.
And Matthew had Paulding, so Paulding across the board. Next game, Archbold 2-1 at Liberty Center 3-0. We got a glimpse of what Archbold's capable of last week against Tenora. We've seen what Liberty Center can do. Unfortunately, I think Liberty Center is going to be taking this one big. I think they're going to run away. It's a running clock in the second half, so I'm going the Tigers.
Yep, we've seen both these teams play. Liberty Center just should win, and very handily.
Yep, Tigers for sure. I think they're the real deal this year again.
Get out the road grader at Liberty Center. Make that parking lot bigger.
And Matthew had Liberty Center. So Liberty Center from all of us. Next game, Brian 0-3 at Delta 3-0. Man, I feel like Delta's had a lot of home games here to start.
It seems like it.
A home game. I'd have to look at their schedule. I'm curious on how many home games they had to start the season. But I think Delta, they're going to take this one. This is another game that I think is going to get blown out of the water. Running clock at halftime. I'm going Delta.
Delta's have been at home twice. They were at Ayersville, then Fairview and Lake.
So maybe
third.
This is only three in a row.
twice, so.
Home.
Yep.
This will be the third.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, Delta big.
Yeah, same. Delta big here.
Delta for me.
And Matthew had Delta. Delta across the board. Man, everyone's picking the same teams. I just realized that. Next game, Evergreen 2-1 at Patrick Henry 2-1. This game we had talked may get a little bit interesting. Evergreen is, again, improved. I feel like that's a common theme. We say Evergreen's much improved every year. Well, I think they really are. They've got a couple good athletes. Colton Robertson's really good. Bryce Bolger, quality athlete, among many others. Coach Box doing good things. I think Patrick Henry wins this one. They've got home field advantage as well. But I think Evergreen gives Patrick Henry a run for their money, though.
I'm just going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be close or Coach I put these kids through the roughest practice they've ever experienced this week because of all the turnovers. So I think Patrick Henry comes out pretty handily in this one.
Yep. The Patriots are going to take this one.
We're going PH.
And Matthew had Patrick Henry as well. Next game, Wauseon 0-3 at Swanton 0-3, a battle of two teams with 0 wins to start. I think Wauseon's going to take this game. I think there's too much pride for the Wauseon Indians. I think they right the ship and they get their first win of the season.
I agree. Indians
for me.
I have the Indians. I guess I'll stick with it.
And Matthew had Wauseon, so Wauseon from all of us. Next game, Defiance 1-2 at Van Wert 1-2. As we heard in the preseason, a couple of the kids are pretty excited about getting this one back. They lost to Van Wert last year, I believe in a close one, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot of hunger there from the Bulldogs. I'm going to take Defiance. I think after that big win against St. Mary's, I think that's a turning point in their season, especially against a quality team like St. Mary's. I'm going the Bulldogs, and they're off to a 2-0 start in WBL, or a 2-1 start to WBL play.
I'm still sticking with Van Wert.
I think the dogs are hungry over there, so I'm going to go with Defiance.
If Defiance was at home, I'd have picked Defiance, but since they're in Van Wert, I'm going with Van Wert. Go Cougars.
And Matthew had Defiance, so that's really the first game that we had split. Next game, Elida 1-2 at Ottawa Glandorf 1-2. I think OG is going to take this one. I think they are a much improved team from last season, and I think that they take this one handily from Elida.
OG taking the Titans.
OG.
I'm going with Elida. think Elida's going to sneak this out somehow. There's going to be something weird that's going to happen, and Elida's going to take this one away.
And Matthew had OG as well. Next game, Napoleon 2-1 at Anthony Wayne 3-0. A really big matchup here for the Wildcats of Napoleon. Anthony Wayne is always a powerhouse in the conference. But with Anthony Wayne being at home 3-0, I think they're just going to be a little too much for Napoleon. I think Napoleon makes this game competitive, and I think they give themselves a shot, but I think Anthony Wayne comes out on top.
Yep, taking the Generals.
Yep, going to go with Anthony Wayne, unfortunately.
Yep. Anthony Wayne, I think, controls Eggers this game, takes the win.
And Matthew had Anthony Wayne as well. Next game, Columbus Grove 3-0 at Spencerville 3-0, a battle of unbeatens. Again, Columbus Grove is without their starting quarterback, but I think they respond well. I still think they take this game from Spencerville. I think they still win, probably by 3 scores. I'm going Columbus Grove.
It's probably one of those like adjustment periods. They've already had a half last week, and maybe another half this week to get adjusted if Brazos need the quarterback. But yeah, Bulldogs should come on the top. Columbus Grove.
Yep, going to go with Columbus Grove.
I'm going to go with Grove on the road.
And Matthew had Columbus Grove, so Grove from all of us. Next game, Hilltop 0-3 at North Central 0-3. I think Hilltop's been competitive in a few of their games. North Central's just kind of been blown out, to be honest, to start the season. I think they're really riding the struggle bus right now. So I'm going the Hilltop Cadets.
Could be the first time I've ever taken Hilltop. Hilltop. Go Cadets.
I'm going to go with Hilltop as well.
Hilltop as well.
And Matthew had Hilltop. Next game, Eden 3-0 at Margaretta 0-3. I think this one's just going to be a massacre. I think Eden goes in there and lights up the scoreboard. 50+ in this game.
Yep. Time for the Bombers to pad the stats.
Yeah, I think the Bombers are going to take this one big time.
Yeah, I'm going with Eden.
And Matthew had Eden as well. A couple more 11-man games. Montpelier 0-3 at Van Loo 0-3. I think this is the game Coach Andy Robinson and the Locomotives get on the winning side of things, so I'm going Montpelier.
I agree with you, Logan. Taking Montpelier.
Locos.
Go Locos.
And Matthew had Montpelier. Last 11-man game, Pandora Gilboa 1-2 at Lipsick 2-1. We got a chance to actually see Pandora Gilboa play against Columbus Grove. Looked like they had kind of struggled to find an identity early on. I mean, that was week 1. Lipsick's a good team too, but I think I'm going to go Lipsick Vikings. I think that they're really finding their swing of things, and I think they take care of business against Pandora Gilboa. I'm going Lipsick.
Vikings.
Lipsick.
I'm going with Pandora Gilboa.
And Matthew had Lipsick. 1 8-man game on the slate here. Holgate has a bye week this week, and that's Stryker 1-1 at Danbury 1-1. Tough to pick. Both teams 1-1, but after a bad loss that Stryker had last week to Holgate, I think they kind of struggle bouncing back this week. I'm going Danbury.
Danbury.
I'm sticking with the local teams in 8-man, so going with Stryker.
I'm hoping Jacob Myers can bounce back here and help Stryker get a victory.
And Matthew had Danbury as well. Well, guys, that concludes everything for the podcast. Closing thoughts.
I'm just looking at the picks there. There's 3 games that are battles of teams that haven't won. Both teams are 0-3, so there's 3 teams that are going to get the first win of the season this week. So that's exciting for them. And there's a bunch of other 0-3 teams that could get their first win of the season too. But there's 3 guaranteed.
Yeah, just get out and watch some football and support your local teams. It's really all I got.
I'm not trying to rush summer away by any means, but for me, the closer we get to having the sun down at kickoffs, that is just the most picture-perfect thing ever. Sun's going down, Friday night lights are on, kickoffs are getting closer. Just fantastic.
One question: does Hicksville have anything special for concession stands? Or
I think I had seen they have their Red Angel pizza. I mean that's over in Paulding in Hicksville area. Maybe we should get a pizza over there.
That pizza's to die for.
Somebody told me that Ayersville does sausage sandwiches. Those are to die for, I guess.
Yeah, we'll have to bring that up. I know each year we bring up each school's concession foods that they're known for, and maybe we should kick that up for a hot take next week and have people reach out to us. So
yeah, I was talking to some people about it at work. I'm like, man, one of the things we talk about is doing that, and it's kind of looking forward to that as we travel to different places.
That's one of my favorite things. Checking out the facilities and the concessions and things like that, and I don't know, maybe we could pull a Dave Portnoy and we could rate the concession foods on a list.
There we go.
7.6, 6.3.
One
We'll
bite.
rate 'em.
Everybody
One bite.
knows
Everyone knows
rules,
the rules.
Then
so.
take 10 bites.
I could take 15 million bites of the fish over at Antwerp. But, I wish we were over there. That's one thing that I really enjoy out of the GMC. But
I'm still a little butthurt on not getting my ribeye sandwich
Elmwood.
over at Elmwood.
ribeye sandwich, chicken wings over at Paulding. I got to find out what that place is. I remember last time we went there; those were excellent. I'll
I'll
have
be
to
over
find
there
out.
in about a month.
So yeah, definitely have to get some of those. But it's that time of year. Weather's starting to cool down a little bit. I'm ready for that fall weather. Start wearing some sweatshirts and campfires and watching a lot of football. That's what I'm excited for.
Coach Fairchild had the almost winter jacket on Friday night at
I did
Archibald.
put it on. I did put it on.
I couldn't believe you rolled that out.
Yeah.
Rolling the winter jacket out already. So, but nope. Yeah, like AJ said, get out and support your local teams. And there's nothing like it. Local high school football, and where everyone knows everybody, and you get to root kids on that you actually know, and just a different feel and a vibe than college and NFL. So I think that's what we really like, and like giving these athletes the recognition they deserve. So
Hey, you never know. You might be included in a video that gets 3 million views.
yeah, or that too.
You never know.
You never know. So, other than that, we'd like to thank all of our sponsors: BSN Sports, Optimal Performance Fitness, Marco's Pizza, Remax Realty of Defiance, Bat and Stevens Body Shop, Burkholder Taxidermy, DeLarber Concrete and Hauling, Fairchild Family Chiropractic, Drop Zone Pizzeria, Tenora Rams Live, Jimenez Basketball Academy, NWO Basketball, Truland Equipment, and Lauren Brown. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Jeff Batt for allowing us to use his amazing facility at Bat and Stevens Body Shop for today's podcast. Stay tuned for the next NWO Sports Podcast in the near future, and thanks for watching.